1 minute to the deadline. Seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deadline.
Hello everyone. I am joined by a most excellent crew today as we cover our VDC top board. Welcome Joni, Ben and Dan.
Hello, happy to be here.
Hey,
Excellent, happy to have you guys here with me. So last week we had VDC, the prelims covered, and now we have our top 7. How are we feeling? You guys looking forward to seeing how this game is covered?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very excited. Get a virtual champion this year.
Completely ignorant about how this has gone. I appreciate that it's not happening as we speak. A complete information blackout, ready to go and make loads of mistakes analyzing.
Wonderful. We've got a lot of sideline coverage as well and some pre-game interviews to see what the vibes were for everyone before the game kicked off. But just so we know who we are talking about, I will put up our VDC top board participants. All right. What do we think about the players on this board? Do we know these names?
Some of them we do. We've got some very experienced, very successful players here who've won championships before. In Micah Bloom, Katie Gray, Michalis Camaritas. We've got some other experienced players who have had success, but I don't think won championships, in Patrick Jacobson and Claire Bradbury. And then we have some players who I don't know as well. Does anyone else have familiarity with these other names?
I do, yeah. I'm happy to launch into a short soliloquy about the players we have here on the board, being their TD over the past week. I've gotten to know them a bit. So in my estimation of the field, we kind of have 3 categories of players or 3 groups of players that are all going to be meeting each other on this top board. And I think it's going to be really exciting. On the one hand, you have 2 players who we might call the rookies, right? Those are Julian and Casey. Both had great tournaments, right? Julian came here on the strength of a huge German solo. In fact, I mean, that was the kind of solo where if the game would have kept going, he would have had like 24, you know? And Casey played an incredibly strong game, lots of alliance plays, or strong tournament rather. But these are players who haven't been on top boards before. They're not going to be as well known to the other folks. They're kind of an X factor, right? How are they going to take the pressure of the top board remains to be seen. How are other people going to think about the idea that we have 2 new players who are not as accustomed to being on the top board remains to be seen. On the other side of things, you have Katie and Michalis, who we might call, the champions, right? Those are 2 players who have been called on DBN before the best player in the world, and I think both of them have a claim to it. Those are 2 players who are basically strategic geniuses, have won tons of titles, probably come in as the favorites. And the question is going to be, are those players targeted for being the favorites? Are they... How do other folks feel about the idea that we have these 2 players who are so established, so incredibly strategically smart, and obviously diplomatically brilliant as well? And then we have 3 players in the middle who maybe you would call like the young guns, right? Micah has had an amazing year. She was #1 DBNI for a long time. She's won a lot this year. Micah is making a name for herself as she's moving into that champion category, right? And I think if she does win this top board, she will have staked her claim as, you know, the person from the young gun generation who has really made it most into the established name, big name person to beat. Patrick Jacobson, who has had a little bit less success than Micah in terms of wins, but who is incredibly bright. You see him on DBN, really, really good tactically. And then Claire, who is kind of like from the Darcy Morris school of never stop playing diplomacy, play constantly, talk about diplomacy constantly. Claire's one of those people who, like, you'll talk to Claire about a game you played 3 years ago, and she'll go, "Oh yeah, I know about that game. So and so played Turkey, and so played Germany." And you're like, how did you know that? But she's just kind of a scholar of the game in that way. And so I think those 3 players all fighting to establish themselves as like the leading light of their generation will be a really cool dynamic against the rookies and the champions. So there you go.
Great perspective, Johnny. Love it. And I'm gonna build on it by borrowing on all the things that you talked about when you and Brandon as well and your esteemed colleagues covered the prelims, the qualifying, the 70 players last weekend who played together to make it down to this 7. Those games were played, and what we always have in these situations is 7 form players, right? There's no doubt that each one of these 7 players, and you know, irrespective of where they come from, will be playing well today, right? I certainly hope so. Notwithstanding disorders can happen due to stress, but I expect them all to be on form. They're big enough to have a very big tournament, so they've been picked for that. But how they got here is also dividing them into separate categories. Micah, there's actually 2 players right here who played with Micah on previous boards, and either there were shared tops or there were strong alliances that went a long way together, and that's Michalis and Claire. So that will come into play, and there's always the psychological aspect of, do I want to ride that horse again, or do I want to deliberately not do so? And of course, there can only be one winner today, so that sort of EF that never breaks or what have you, that's not really on the table. By contrast, you've got a character like Julian who exerted his will on his board and did that thing that we always talk about, converted a strong position into a solo. And he did so by force of diplomacy as well as tactics, and it was an incredibly impressive solo. There was no throw elements about it. I thought it was, really, really strong. So those are the 2 ends of the spectrum, really, and everyone is on that spectrum somewhere. So you throw into the mix the fact that, yes, the likes of Claire, and actually also Micah, if you put in face-to-face, Micah's played a lot, and she won. I think she's on the verge of, has just won the European Tour this season, the overall tour. So like, there's no doubting that she's one of the strongest players in the world in my mind already. Definitely so. They will know each other. Some of these players will know each other, and they might know each other extremely well, and others, just like Ben was saying, will not. And let's not underestimate the excitement of playing with someone new, the freshness of that. So can't wait to see how it shapes out.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially what you're saying about new and fresh players up against people that have played together a lot. Like, coming from Australia, we have a lot of the same people attending all the same events, and you play with a lot of the same people constantly, and that can be good, but that can also be really bad because sometimes you can overthink it and panic a little bit. So, seeing how these dynamics play out on this board with a good mix of people that are familiar with each other and not will be interesting to follow along with. But yeah, so we have a Paris method for the power selection on this board as well. While I just get that video up, Johnny, do you want to describe or at least give everyone a walkthrough on how the Paris method is done?
Sure. Paris method is generally how the hobby does most of its top board power assignments. So rather than picking randomly, we'll have the top 7 come in. Everyone, if you picture it on a table, it's easier to imagine. Player number 7 walks down and puts their name on the table. Player number 6 gets to walk down and put their name on the table anywhere they like, so either in front of or behind player number 7. 5th player gets to do the same, and so on and so forth, such that the first player coming into the top board can put their name anywhere they like, and we'll end up with a list of names from 1 to 7, and then we'll go back down that list, and everyone will select the power that they want to play, with the tiebreaker going to the person who chose last.
That's pretty much it. There can be a bit of a psychological aspect to it, knowing which countries you have a choice of, but who you're going to pick next to as well. So, yeah, without further ado, I will bring this to the stage, and we can watch this video on it.
Yeah, I'm not hearing the audio, Brandon. Brandon, can you hear me?
Yep. Is everyone else got the audio?
Johnny,
Sorry. Sorry, Johnny, is the audio working?
No, we can't hear it.
That is interesting. I don't actually know how to incorporate that, because I was told just to share the screen and that should make it work. Johnny, do you know how to make that work?
Yeehaw. Fun times. Everyone gets to watch us do live. Yay.
Alrighty.
You can hear the audio on yours, but we can't.
Yeah, I can hear it on mine.
Oh, how odd. I could
Yeah,
try sharing it if
yeah.
you send it to me. I don't know if that would make a difference.
It's in the StreamYard library, so I don't actually have a copy of it.
Got it.
For this, if we get through it and we see everything, we'll know where everyone is the same. If this is a problem for the sideline reports, that'll be a bigger problem.
Yes, yeah. I imagine it will be. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
This is a lot of fun.
Having so much fun.
Okay, so if that's not working.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Crashed.
Alright, this.
I'm surprised that it doesn't even. We can't even just hear it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, try refreshing the video page. I'm
just gonna remove that.
Yeah.
So they can't see behind. That's not gonna work.
I'm gonna try. Who just messaged me?
Yeah, thanks for that. That's good.
I messaged the server to see if anyone knows.
Yeah. All right, so we might have to.
We could run the Paris method without the sound and try to fix this by the time the sideline things come up, but I'm not sure if anybody. I have no technical knowledge for how to work on it. I don't know.
Yeah, my technical knowledge on this was Brandon and Mikala saying, "Here's the app, mess around with it, and you'll figure it out." So,
For the Paris method, I think without audio is
Alright.
is probably okay. Oh, here.
I found it from my.
Yep.
Do you want me to try doing
And
it
play
on
it on
my?
a separate screen. All right. Yeah, I can download it and play it on a separate screen. But Brandon said he's about to join.
Yeah, but that's a good idea. You should try that, or I can try it too. But yeah, you
Yeah.
should. I mean, it should be you, just because you're doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hit the download button next to, and then
Yeah,
play it
got
not in
it.
StreamYard, but in like. Okay.
It's live television, folks.
Can they hear us? I don't think they can hear us.
They can't? What do we just blank?
I hope not. Maybe they
Yeah, we're
can.
just
That'd be
I
blank.
funny.
feel like there's a good chance that they can because we're on the thing.
Oh, this is brilliant. I've got it playing in the background, but it's not showing where it is.
Oh, they can hear us. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think maybe if we just do the Paris method without audio, and maybe Brandon can
Yeah, I'll
fix
mess
it by the
around
time we
with
get
it.
to
Yeah.
the sideline reports. I mean, by just
Yeah.
showing without audio, we'll still be able to see where people go in the rankings, in what order. Like, we'll still be able to see the process of how they get to the final results.
Apparently they can hear us, so that's wonderful.
That is pretty fun.
That shouldn't be happening though, because we're not in it.
It's okay.
Hello,
it's
everyone.
It's more fun for them this way.
It's better than entirely dead air. They might have thought we disappeared.
Yeah, right.
Since you all can hear us anyway, I've just brought us all back. I will play the. I have the Paris method just here, and it's just gone away, which is excellent.
Johnny, since you were there, I figure we can play
Yeah, do
it.
you wanna give us a
You can
walkthrough?
commentate about what was going on, if anything surprising.
Should we? I have it downloaded. Should we try it this way?
Yep.
Here goes nothing.
I think the audio might be a little quiet.
I can't hear it at all. Johnny, do you want to just tell us about it?
That's a no again. Okay, I'll just tell you about it. So here is me talking, introducing, and being really charming, as I always am. Claire would like to pick, and they're going to. McCallus very calmly says that he would like to pick before Claire. Julian quickly, sensibly decides to pick before McCallus. Casey is going to be boring and pick before Julian. Patrick decides to be slightly interesting and picks after Casey. Katie hesitates and does the same thing as Patrick.
Suspense. The suspense.
I know.
Where will she go?
Micah thinks for a long time,
She's gonna
pretends to,
go.
and goes first.
I wonder.
And does the boring thing.
I wonder if in the sidelines, if we can hear them, where we'll find out what the thought process was there and what she was weighing up. But she's gone straight in for France. So
This is important. Casey picks Russia. Katie freaks out.
Katie wanted Russia.
well, this is the moment where you say, well, you should have picked before Casey then.
Right.
You wanted Russia that much. In my best dad voice.
England. Austria, Germany, Turkey, Jamaica.
So Julian's solo was in the West, and he's
Germany.
just picked in the East. Yeah, and Germany was there to choose as well. So I don't know. If it was me, I would definitely have been tempted to go again. You know.
Yeah, maybe he's removed himself from being next to Micah and Patrick. Maybe that was the consideration.
Wallace and I here are bantering about McCullis pretending to take a long time to think about whether to choose Germany or Turkey.
Is McCullis not one of the best German players in the hobby, if not the best?
Correct. And then goes ahead and plays Germany.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one. Like, if you're Julian, if it was me as Julian, I would take Germany from McCullis on purpose, just to prevent him
And
having.
Claire just played Turkey in the VDL top board a few weeks ago, right? Which she chose earlier in the selection than she needed to, and then it didn't go very well for her. So it's interesting for her to get a second chance at it without having a choice this time.
That's right. Yeah, she wasn't exactly thrilled. I gotta say, I actually think live commentating over the Paris method way more fun. Let's do it like that from now on. That was great.
All right, I think I have it now for at least for the player interviews. So let's give that a shot. I will kick us off with Patrick's interview, and let's see if this works.
Patrick Jacobson, welcome to the VDC top board. How are you feeling about that Paris method?
Went about as I expected. I had a real thought process in my head about potentially letting Casey go ahead of me and just staying where I was, or letting Casey go behind me and just stay where I was. But ultimately, he was a bit of an unknown quantity, and I don't mind picking a country that's not France, Italy, or England. So I took the risk, and I got England anyway. So that's nice. Best of both worlds.
Good. How do you feel about England as a power in general, especially coming into a top board?
A while ago, I would have said it was my best power. I just haven't played it that much recently, though. So I don't know if that still stands, but it's still a country that I can kind of feel confident in, and not autopilot, certainly not on the top board, but I just feel like I'm more at ease when I'm playing it generally. I think Italy would have been the more perfect choice for this board, just because I like being next to Micah, but Casey, again, being a blank slate is a little bit more of a risk factor. But again, I don't really mind. I think I can work with anybody on this board, so I don't think I'll get killed early like a lot of corner powers do.
Good. Do you have any general thoughts on the game, or are you coming in with an open mind?
I'm trying to be as open as possible. Although I will say I feel like McCullis really downplayed his Germany prowess. He's one of the best German players I've ever seen, so seeing him there will always give me a little bit of pause. But again, I've worked with him well before. One of my best VDL games last year was running an alliance with him and coming out better. So I can work with him just like with Micah or anyone else here.
Good. And now that you've been experienced in top boards, this isn't your first one. What are you going to take from your previous experience and bring into this game?
Really, even if it's super stressful, I just want to put myself in the position to make as many important decisions as possible. As long as I have agency, then I have a path to win. Whereas, if I find an ally and I let them grow for the most part and let them make the decisions about where to balance the board, I feel like I'm going to have less of a chance, just because I think I have faith in myself to know how to win if I'm given that decision-making ability. So I just have to, again, put myself in that position and get a solid run and hopefully consolidate that northern position over the course of the game to become the invincible England that we all dream of.
Good. Well, good luck with becoming the invincible England that we all dream of.
Thanks, Bradley.
No worries.
Alrighty. I will play our next one now. Which should be Claire.
All right. Claire, congratulations on making the VDC top board.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
You're welcome. How do you feel about the Paris that just happened?
I feel great. I didn't have to game it out. I didn't have to think about it. I was just going to get a country, and I think I got a pretty good situation for myself. Though I did try to get out my like Austria mug to try to manifest it, but no, I'm playing Turkey again. I mean,
Yeah.
Turkey's not my favorite country, despite claims.
Right.
But, you know, I'm quite happy with it. I think it'll be better than last time.
Yes. Here's hoping. And how do you feel about your neighbors?
I'm honestly very surprised that the board let Casey pick Russia. I really expected Katie to go for it. There's often a sort of a trend of trying to separate the people from the same country, but yeah, I've got a really good relationship with Casey. I don't really know his style very well. I think he knows my style very well, so I feel good about that. I've also played with Julian before, and we had a pretty good relationship on that board as well. Katie isn't unknown to me, but I've done research, so we should be fine theoretically. So yeah, I feel really good about my East. Actually, I think it'll give me a lot of chances.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations again, and best of luck on the top board.
Thank you.
No problem. Who was that charming interviewer? Wow.
Yes. Alrighty. The next one should be Casey.
I'm joined by Casey McAllister. Casey, how are you feeling on this beautiful Melbourne morning for us?
I'm feeling great, Zoe. You can kind of see, like, behind the glare, I've just got the lovely morning sun blasting through into my bedroom. I'm feeling great.
Fantastic. It's a very friendly time for us, honestly, this top board. So speaking of top boards, this is your first one. How are you feeling about that? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts coming in, and also just a little bit about yourself as a player for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you before.
I don't necessarily consider this my first top board. Like, it's my first top board at a tournament, but when I first started playing Diplomacy, my first boards were with Peter McNamara, Andrew Goff, Melissa Cole, Shane Cubis, Jamal. So, like, I started playing Diplomacy on top boards, so I'm not necessarily feeling out of my element.
We are very spoiled in Australia and particularly in Melbourne. So you've just come out of your first Paris method, though, which I'm guessing in those top board-esque games was not a feature. How did you find it, and how are you feeling about the outcome?
I'm surprised by the outcome. I had somewhat made my peace with picking first or fourth. I did not think second was a place that I'd realistically land. I'm thrilled. Katie obviously is not, considering I took Russia, and they were very clearly upset by that. But honestly, I just thrive off that energy, so I'm feeling good about it all.
Fantastic. And so coming into this game, what do you feel like your strategy is, whether that's general or quite specific?
I've always been a proponent of the touch grass method of diplomacy. So I'm coming in intending not to necessarily upset anyone, just playing my style of diplomacy, and that tends to lead to good things when everyone else is out there trying really hard to win and stabbing each other. And all of a sudden I'm invited into lots of dots.
That's exciting to hear. Can't wait to see how it turns out. Casey, good luck, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you very much, Zoe.
Julian, congratulations on making it to the VDC top board.
Thank you. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Although I am already second guessing if I chose the right country, could have taken Germany. But yeah, we'll see.
Tell us about that. What did you choose, and what are you thinking you maybe should have chosen?
Yeah, so I took Austria. My other options were Germany and Turkey, and of course, I got here by playing Germany, and so I could have taken Germany again. I don't know. We'll see if I regret it or not.
How do you feel about your neighbors in the East playing Austria?
Yeah, so I played once with Katie before, so I'm hoping to be on good terms with Italy. Otherwise, the two Australians I've also played with once before. I'm wearing my, I don't know if you can see, it's my Lucky Australia shirt.
Yes,
So,
yes,
so
yes.
hopefully they're on my side too.
You'll get far in this voice chat based game with that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in thinking this is your first top board?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I am wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So how are you feeling? Are you excited? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a plan?
I mean, I'm definitely excited. I don't have a detailed plan. I think it might be pretty hard being sort of the outsider. They know each other a little bit better, but we'll see. I want to, keep people like not angry at me.
Yes.
Like by the end of the game, because I think in the end it's gonna two people are gonna be close, and someone has to sort of pick a winner.
Totally.
That's often how it goes. Yeah.
100%. Well, this is not public knowledge. Don't let anybody know, but it will come out on the broadcast tomorrow that I am rooting hard for you, Julian.
All
So
right, thank you.
Get out there and make me proud.
Yeah. I'll try.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Katie Gray, congratulations on making it to the VDC top board.
Thank you.
How do you feel about how the Paris just went?
It's fine. It's great. It was wonderful. I did this to myself.
You want to elaborate on that? There
No,
was some
I mean-
commentary during the Paris.
I mean, I just should have not dropped down and picked Russia. I don't know. It's fine.
So you wanted Russia?
Yeah, I wanted Russia. It's my favorite country. It's so much fun, and I had been thinking all day about how I wanted to play a northern game and play different, and then it doesn't matter. So it's all gone. So that's fine.
What are you thinking about Italy, about your neighbors?
I am kind of curious to see what happens. I think everyone's probably going to be watching out for the two Aussies in RT. I'm happy that Mike is in France. I think we'll hopefully be able to have a pretty neutral, don't bother each other sort of relationship. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd like to work with Casey, even though he stole my country from me, because I do really like a wintergreen. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it works out.
Were you terrified that McCallus was going to take Turkey and try to force you into an IT?
Yeah, awful.
That's what I thought. All right, that's it. Good luck, Katie.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Micah Blom, number 1 seed coming into the VDC top board. How are you feeling about the Paris method?
Hello, that was good. I think I really like that. I like where people are placed. I had some ideas in my mind. I've been thinking about this whole week. Things went differently than I expected, of course, but I'm quite happy with the outcome. I just think this is going to be an intense West.
That's good, that's good. How are you feeling in general about your thoughts on the game coming into it?
About my what, sorry?
What are your thoughts on the game in general coming into this game?
Oh, I want to have a fun game. I think we have fun players here. Of course, I'm going to try to win. I'm not going to play a top board and not try to win. But I also want to have fun. I want to stay a bit true to how I play really like myself. I'm going to try to be honest a lot where possible and keep things a bit positive.
That's good, that's good. Micah, I believe this is your second top board today. Are you okay? Is this good? Do you enjoy
Yes. It's fun to play 2 on a day. That's definitely a new experience, and I feel quite lucky that I'm able to play 2 in a day. That's amazing. And a year ago, I could never have thought that I'd be at this point now today. I am a little tired, but we're starting to get towards the point that I'm starting to get a lot of energy again.
That's good. I think you might be the first person to my knowledge to play 2 top boards in one day. I can't think of that happening before.
I am incredibly awesome, and no one will ever be as good as me.
Good, good. All right, look in the game. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here with Michalis Camarides. Michalis, how are you feeling today?
Hi, I am feeling wonderful. Thank you.
Feeling wonderful. That's always great to hear. We've just come out of a Paris method. How did you feel about the outcome?
Well, I was expecting to get Austria. I'd spent my whole week planning to get Austria. Never played Austria on the top board. So I was like, oh, that's exciting. That'll be a new challenge. And then Austria gets taken. I'm like, now I have to decide, do I want to lose another top board as Germany to add to my large collection of lost top boards as Germany? Or should I just screw it and go Russia? But, not Russia, Turkey. But, no, Germany it is. Let's see how it goes. At least I can follow a pattern.
Would you like this poison chalice or this poison chalice? Absolutely. So what are your thoughts going into this Virtual Diplomacy Championship top board?
The West is stacked with known players. The East is stacked with less known players, which makes me think Katie will do extremely well in the East, being the one very experienced player down there. And I'm Germany. Italy doing well isn't necessarily bad for me, so that probably works out okay. The West, yeah, this will be quite a challenge. It's got to get Micah and Patrick fighting somehow, and then try and run it from there.
Absolutely. Good insights. And if I may ask, other than yourself, never rule out McCullers, who is your favourite to top this board?
I mean, like I said, Katie's just got Italy in an East of newer players, less experienced in top board format particularly. I know Claire's played quite a lot. Casey and Julian, I think, are much greener and could well be much greener at the end of the game when it's all Italian there. So Katie's the one to watch there. The West, we might lock up. We might end up, none of us going anywhere, handing it to the East. And I think that will benefit Katie. But I think Casey would be a good dark horse in that scenario as well, because I know Katie likes some winter green, and that will benefit Casey, I suspect.
Wonderful. Well, McCullers, break a leg on the top board. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, I just want to give a big shout out to Michaelis and Brandon for coming on back scene and backstage and helping us get those tech issues resolved. But yeah, so now we've had the player interviews and gone through Paris method. What do you all have as predictions for this game?
Any chance we could pull the board up so we can see where everyone's playing while we talk?
We can definitely do that.
Even though I did the Paris, I kind of forget.
To hear it's very interesting to hear a couple of the things people were talking about in those interviews. You can see some of the players seem very used to this and very relaxed, and some of them seem a little more tense. I thought it was interesting what Casey said about having played with such elite players. And he's right. Those are incredible players, but there is a difference between playing with top players and playing on a top board, because motivations can be a little bit different. And the whole way that people work towards there's a more defined goal, right? To try to top the board, less varied motivations than there would be in a different type of game. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I loved his confidence. He seemed utterly unbothered by the fact that he was in this situation.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree, Ben. I thought it was really interesting, the balance between people who were talking about themselves, because ultimately that's what the questions were about, and people who were talking about the board and the other people on the board. I thought I had a little list, and I was going to play I can work with anyone on this board bingo. I literally thought everybody was going to say, I think I can work with anybody on this board. And then they kind of didn't. Patrick said it. And then Claire said she could work with anybody near her. And then it pretty much broke down from there. Casey was like, I don't care, bring it on. Come on, come on. Which I also enjoyed, but slightly different. Julian, bless him. I'm sorry. This guy knows he's got a mountain to climb, right? He knows that McCullers was talking about it. There's known players and there's not known players, and no aspersions on skill and all the rest of it. But like we were saying at the beginning, there's that advantage to knowing people already. And Julian knows that because he's relatively unknown, hasn't played with a lot of these guys before. He has got a mountain to climb. I just hope that doesn't loom too large in his vision. Because in a game like this, you can be beaten before you start. And the flip side of the way Casey's feeling, which is, yeah, come on, bring it on. And he might be underestimating the differences and how it works. I think maybe Julian is overestimating, and if he hits it like he hit the game that that he soloed, then like he's going to be just.
I'm looking at two flashpoints here. One of them is right there on the English channel, right? I think Patrick and Micah are from the same class of diplomacy players, but I think they are polar opposites. I really think they represent like two completely different traditions of diplomacy, right? I would consider Micah like Ed Sullivan, Saren Kwok style of player, which is the style of player I aspire to be, but often fail to be, which is diplomacy first, social strategy first, alliances first. Let me walk into this game and organize the entire board socially such that the only outcome is the outcome that I want, right? And the pieces will fall where they will. And, that she's obviously incredibly tactically competent, but the whole game is about arranging the diplomatic situation on the board, right? Whereas Patrick, polar opposite. Patrick is a strategist and a tactician, you might say the McCullough school, right? His diplomacy is all about convincing you by sheer force of will that his read of the strategy and tactics is correct and that you should follow him. And he often is right because he's a genius at it, right? And so how are they going to interact with each other? What's going to be the tension there? And then, of course, you have maybe the best player on the board right next to them in Germany. And is McCallus going to be able to play them off of each other? Are they going to find a way to counter McCallus early on? I don't know. That's one. I'm really looking at that. And then the other space I'm really looking at is in the East. Katie mentioned that she's interested in a wintergreen on this board. I think Casey is probably pretty interested in a wintergreen based on, his interview. McCallus signaled that a wintergreen might happen. So are Katie and Casey going to be able to find a way to work together early on, clean up these other players in AT, and make it so that one of Katie or Casey is in position to win this board? Because I agree with McCallus's read that that's a likely way for things to go in the East. And, like I said, I'm rooting for Julian. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Julian tops this board. But I will be looking at the IR relationship.
Yeah, so I think if AT can sniff out an IR if it starts to happen, that's something for us to look for. And we've seen 1,000 boards where they just don't, and one goes and then the other one goes. I think a key thing that both Micah and Katie had to say is that, they were pleased to be near each other, weren't they? And they did work together well in a previous game. And that back door of France and Italy is so important. But, it's a top board, so all bets are off by come 1904, but still.
Yeah, one interesting thing is with Claire, I think was unable to find an ally the last big game she was in is Turkey, and I think she's going to be looking for an ally, and that could end up working out well for her, but it could also make one of her neighbors who she chooses to make a really good offer to have a really good game. And with that, with the what you guys were just talking about, the possibility of an wintergreen of Katie and Casey working together, and the positive DMZ sort of situation Katie was talking about with Micah that she thought she could get. I do think Katie's in pretty good position to start this game. So if Brandon, you originally asked us to make picks, I'll put mine down there for Katie.
Alrighty. Well, we can pretty much just get straight into it if we want. Who wants to be on first for Spring 01? I reckon or do we all want to be on? We rotate who talks about what every year, or how'd you like to do it?
I feel like if you guys do the tactics and you guys talk about the moves, and then I will jump in and talk about the general sense of the thing and the diplomacy. But yeah, if that's all right. I'll color commentate, as it were.
We were at the last one, we were rotating someone off each year so that there were 3 people on at once. Do we want to do it that way? I can volunteer for the first year if someone needs to volunteer to set.
Okay. Yep. Happy to rotate. I'll leave Dan and Ben on, and Johnny, if you want to take a break for this year, and we'll see you in 02.
All right, Dan, since you requested, I'll read the moves for the first one here.
All right, here we go.
All right, so we have no one goes to Galicia, so that's some AR cooperation right away. Casey opens north, which is interesting because Katie said if she'd played Russia, she would have opened north. We have nothing in the English Channel. Paris goes to Picardy, and England, pretty standard. Germany, Turkey, fairly standard, but Smyrna goes to Syria, kind of indicating that they may be afraid of Lepanto.
Yeah, it's strong for Russia. I read this. Lovely start. That army Yorkshire, not Edinburgh, so it can only be a fleet in Norway, unless it goes very bad and it becomes Barents. But that's a pretty bold move with Micah and Michalis next to you. This is probably what I would want to see if I was Casey. Yeah.
Excellent. All right,
and no move from Venice, so no initial strife between Germany and Italy here.
I think with Micah, obviously you've left Burgundy open, completely open, so straight away she's not worried about Michalis, going gangbusters or any sort of three-way. Because of course, if you get English Channel or Piedmont and then you've left Burgundy open, then behind you, then you're kind of done, right? You stick a fork in your early doors. So I think if it was me, I do worry about such things. Micah seems unconcerned, and she hasn't given any sort of belt and braces for anything really. So she's confident, probably with good reason.
There's a lot of trust on this board generally. The only sort of aggressive move is Moscow to St. Petersburg, and that's only possible because of the trust being built with Austria.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Alrighty, let's go forward into the fall. See how that plays out.
Oh, I can. You want me to? I'll go again.
All
right. So we got Ukraine going into Romania while Syria moves up to Armenia, and we have Budapest covering Trieste. A little bit of showing who Julian has more trust for here. We've got the convoy to Tunis from Italy. Micah takes 3 to start the game. Michalis plays it a little safer, supports himself to Belgium. And we've got a supported attack into Norway, while Casey moves to Finland, opening up St. Petersburg for one of 2 builds that he will get this turn.
Yeah, so my initial thought is that this is, this is all about the winter builds are going to make all the difference. Because in a minute, Micah's got 3. So, whoever, if you have this sort of relatively pacifistic West, then someone's going to end up with 3 builds, and their 3rd build makes all the difference, right? That determines what to do. And if that 3rd build happens to be a wave, then that's also determining something, isn't it? It's sort of putting your foot on the throat of the game to a certain degree, and everyone slow down and remain calm. But if it's a fleet or an army, obviously that tells something, and on which side. Similarly, Russia, Casey must make a decision. I like his, he had a strong approach in the chat. He seems to be. This is an unequivocally pro-Turkish setup, notwithstanding Syria to Armenia, which I don't know if he's going to be best pleased about. But he has no option here to build a fleet Sevastopol. I strongly doubt a kind of big switcheroo and I'm going to come for you, Claire, is coming. You never know, but it doesn't feel that way to me. There's no AI is another thing. It's sort of, they're both playing their individual games. And whereas, there's clearly something going on with Russia and Turkey. So if I was Austria, if I was Julian, I don't know who my bestie is right now. I think this is what we were worried about for Julian, is that he wouldn't get his hooks in someone quickly, and that he might feel isolated. I don't know if that's the case, but Budapest to Trieste, obviously, better safe than sorry, and there is no threat on Budapest and all the rest of it, but still, a certain degree, you hate to see it.
And he's going to be building 2, so he ends up with units in all of his home centers regardless at the end of the winter. But it does feel very like a lack of trust.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see those builds. I can't wait. Literally, if I had to predict, I don't know what I would predict here. Like this is where you really need to know the diplomacy. Everyone is trying to be friends with everybody else. Obviously, never stab in the build phase. What would you build? What would you build here? I mean, Casey, he's can't build Sev, right? So what's in St. Pete? Army, Fleet North, Fleet South, nothing. It's all possible. And France, what's that second elf? Go on, Ben. Go on, Brandon.
McAllis led him into Sweden, right? And Casey's kind of taken Patrick's attention in the north probably here. So I would think that Patrick would want to not get in a fight with Micah here. I think Patrick is going to want Micah on his side, and Micah very much is the one with the choices at the moment.
Could it not be that was a deal in Norway? Like, if you were really worried about this northern opening, then would you not convoy to Norway and support with Norwegian?
It could be.
We do have some sideline coverage that we can pull up, and that might shed some light on these builds, and we will watch that coverage. We'll watch that video now before we see the builds. So here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is Zoe Cameron here with Bradley Grace, and we have had the distinct pleasure of listening into negotiations on the VDC top board for 1901, and for the foreseeable, we will be doing the same. So, Bradley, what have you been hearing in the West in Spring 01?
So the first conversation I go into is between Patrick and Micah, and they spend 90% of the time talking about how good McAllis is at Germany. There's no real commitments made other than a DMZ of the channel, and they're just constantly talking about McAllis is very strong at Germany, let's not let him get away with things, but there's no real commitment going on at all. I pivot then to a conversation between Micah and McAllis. And straight away they're like, Burgundy DMZ, all good, let's have peace. And halfway through this conversation, McAllis mentions that Casey's opening north, or at least thinking about it. And they have a brief discussion on if that's okay, that's good. And then I leave and go and join the McAllis and Casey conversation. And again, they reiterate, thinking about opening north, would you be okay if I built a fleet in St. Pete North Coast? So most of spring 1901 was a bit cagey, but there were some plans going on. How was these, Zoe?
The East was fascinating. So the thing that first jumped out to me, you usually see in these games the AI talk very quickly, because obviously they've got that sticky little adjoining home center issue. But what we saw instead was Austria and Turkey, Claire and Julian disappearing away quite quickly, and then Katie and Casey, something that I'm going to have to enunciate carefully, jumping away for a talk. And interestingly, the dynamics here, and this comes up a lot in the conversations, is that Julian has played with Casey and with Katie and not with Claire. And I think we can expect that Claire knew that and wanted to capitalize on the advantage of not having history with Julian yet and wanting to work together on that basis. So that's a topic that comes up between Katie and Casey. It comes up, I overhear it later, between Claire and Julian. I hear it where Katie brings it up explicitly to Julian. So that was quite interesting. Katie Gray is in full flight, very warm, very open, finding common ground with everyone that she chats to. She's, very much open and happy to hear everyone pitching, let's work together. Casey and Claire taking that angle of, we'd love to, separately, I'd love to be your game-long ally. I'd love to be friends the whole game. That's just how I play. But there's a few moments where Katie sounds a little bit rattled by some of the strategic thinking that's being put across. Interestingly, what we caught just towards the end of Spring 01, so Patrick lands in a chat between Casey and Claire and says quite quickly, I've heard there's a Galicia DMZ. Does that mean you're opening north, Casey? And Casey admits to it. He says, yes, I am. That's what I usually do if there's a Galicia DMZ. And Patrick goes, right, well, let's talk early next turn. So segueing in, what did you hear in the fall?
So I jumped straight into the conversation between Casey and Patrick. And I overheard Casey saying, hey, if you take Norway with a fleet, I will not build in St. Petersburg. This is something that Patrick repeats to Micah later on, talking about an EFR against McAllis. Meanwhile, Micah and Michalis are having a conversation, and they're talking about Belgium. Michalis offers Belgium to Micah and asks, "What will you build?" And she just goes, "I'll probably wave one and build a fleet in Brest." And that is Michalis' only ask. He only cares that there's a fleet in Brest, which is funny because then Patrick and Micah have a conversation, and Micah says the same thing after Patrick offers Belgium. So she's getting to have free builds if she wants it. But then she says, "Oh, I'll probably build Fleet Marseille." Completely unprompted. She has found herself in a bind where she has to make a decision right now when she could have just been ambiguous, not really had the conversation, and then put a fleet in Brest and been fine. Instead, offers it up. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I'm very surprised that she put herself in a decision point right away. And when Patrick left, she said, "I think I prefer FGR, but I'll have to speak to Casey." They haven't spoken yet all game.
Now, this is interesting because I actually did catch the tail end of an FGR conversation. I will also note, I caught a little bit of that Patrick and Casey discussion, mending fences. I found it quite interesting that very quickly, Patrick is happy to bury the hatchet. He says, "I'm always advocating that 1901 spring moves don't mean anything about an alliance. Like, we can work on this from here." And I believe in that conversation, yes, as you mentioned, there was a point where I believe Casey said that he wouldn't build anything in St. Pete, which was fascinating. It'll be really interesting to see how that's shaken out. I also caught Casey and Claire chatting, wanting to avoid the Australian stereotype of always being perceived to work together. But crucially, that did not sound like an actual barrier to them working together. They just wanted to avoid that impression. That FGR chat I mentioned sounded pretty productive. Something that I think we both picked up on this year is that there's a lot of talk about what's happening all over the board, and quite specifically what to expect from different players around the board. And of course, we've heard Michalis having this conversation. I also caught a little bit of it between Katie and Claire. And it's really interesting that so early, we're already looking closely at what other people all over the board are doing. And I think that's just indicative of the incredibly high caliber of players on this board, and also that there are a few people who are playing their first top boards. So I'm really interested to see how this is shaken out in terms of builds and fall moves. And we will be joining you back here for 1902.
Okay. Where is it? There it is.
I love it when I'm right.
Alrighty, we're back.
It doesn't all that often. Go on, Ben.
You're right about the deal that they wouldn't build in St. Petersburg, but it also offers, I think, Patrick a little more safety to have the army still on the island, right? I feel like there's no guarantee that Patrick has an alliance yet. It's interesting, if somebody said to me, if you made that deal, okay, I'll go to Norway with the fleet, you won't build in St. Peter. It's like, oh, great. Can we work together next? Are we going to collapse on Germany? What are we going to do? Let's turn that one agreement into a bigger plan. And it seems like people are a little bit, I'm not hearing about any longer term plans yet from the sidelines.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I feel like everything that we've heard is about don't look at me, don't look at me. Look at Michalis, mostly. And I think, people have probably said, something I didn't talk about necessarily is the rhythm here. I'm more used to face-to-face play, as you know, and if there's a top board, then you play Friday and Saturday. You might have had a little, snifter or two if that's your sort of thing on a Saturday night, and you wake up in the morning on Sunday and you go for it. You've probably had, 5 conversations and 20 minutes thought about realistically about what's going to happen, and then you sort of hit it. These guys have had a week. They've had a week to think about, on their idle moments when they're having a cup of coffee and they're looking out the window. They've been thinking, and there's some of them knowing which country they're going to get. Claire probably had a reasonable inkling it might be Turkey or Austria, as she said. Micah probably, good. So they're still in that. No one's been smacked in the chops yet. Everyone's got a plan until they get hit. So they're still on those plans.
That's it. Johnny, did you catch the sideline coverage? Do you have any predictions for these builds?
I have no predictions, but I do want to say thank you to the sideliners. They are the heroes of these DVM streams. They're the best. Zoe is the queen of sideline. Bradley is making a great debut. I think Andrew Zick will be on later, so thank you to them as well. And thank you to Justin Lohr, our Valiant GM, for this game.
Yeah, definitely. Having the sideline adds a lot of context to it that we just don't get from a board state. So
yeah, no, I don't think you said it yet. Thank you, Johnny, for running this tournament. I mean, that's a huge effort. Really, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. Any predictions, or do you just want to see what they are?
2 armies for Russia. It will be Fleet, Brest Army, Paris for France, and probably Wave. Everything else as you expect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. I'm gonna step aside from 1902 now because that can't be beaten. So
All right, we'll see you back for the 1902 builds. See ya. Alrighty. Johnny, if you want to handle spring, and then Ben, I'll get you to do fall.
Sure.
Deal.
There we go.
Okay, what are we looking at here? I am seeing a bounce in the English Channel, right? We might have imagined that, given the Fleet London, Fleet Brest builds, that did kind of indicate that a bounce in the channel might be coming. It's pretty inefficient for EF, but it's, kind of safety first, as somebody I know might say, somebody named Dan. And McCullis is moving out to Heligoland Bite, so this is clearly shaping up to be that FGR that was forecasted in the sidelines with Moscow to St. Petersburg 2. Casey kind of playing it the slow way, right? Not building Fleet St. Petersburg, not trying to jump out into the lead, just kind of going to grab Norway maybe and let everybody else deal with England. There's a bounce in Burgundy, also maybe safety first. In the East, it's kind of slow going. Katie just repositions her units, just make sure that she's safe around Venice. Claire is moving out into the Mediterranean, but sort of slow and steady. And the only moves that are surprising to me are these Austrian moves, I have to say. The support into Albania, I think maybe indicates that Julian thought Katie was potentially going to convoy to Albania. Obviously, Katie did not do that. I wonder whether there was conversation about whether Katie would do that, and she decided ultimately not to. I mean, if you're Katie, you're happy for Trieste to go to Albania. That's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But then the question is Vienna to Tyrolia. So these look like defensive moves against an Italian attack that didn't happen, is what they look like to me. They're not offensive against Italy because Julian left Trieste, so the attack on Italy is kaput. They're defensive. And what will that mean for the future of the IA relationship? I don't know. I mean, having an Austrian army in Tyrolia is not that bad if you're Italy, right? You're sitting in Venice, so you don't care. And Tyrolia can go to Piedmont and screw with France. It can tap Munich, right? It's not the worst thing, but they're clearly not fighting Russia. Austria is. So if you're Katie, you got to think, well, then who is Italy or Austria fighting if not Russia?
Austria is definitely not fighting Russia. If you're looking at what alliances seem to be forming on this board, to me, the number one is Austria trusts Russia. But it also looks like Turkey trusts Russia here. And Russia's getting a leg up on Norway as long as this German-Russian corporation works out. They'll get it right now with a tap on North. So I'm feeling very good about Casey's position early in this game. I'm trying to think. Initially that looked like an attack on Italy, but by moving out of Trieste and also supporting it, because if you were trying to set yourself up to take Venice, if you thought that convoy was going to Albania, if you did it without support, Trieste would bounce back, and then you would have a chance to take Venice. But with the support, it makes me wonder if they expected to get into Aegean and then to have Albania going to Greece or defending Serbia or something. There's whatever it is, it's not necessarily effective, but it's not damning either. And yeah, I never felt it never seemed like Patrick had anyone on his side yet, and he's really going to have to, get that switched around, quickly, or else he's going to be in trouble. I guess Mike is less declarant than the GR so far, less aggressive, but she could be immediately here.
Yeah, like she still has that built-in pocket, and she's got decent position. And it seems like Patrick's going to be having issues from Germany and Russia as well, so that makes sense.
We do have Julian in the chat saying that he wasn't necessarily afraid of Italy attacking. He was just trying to create some plausible deniability with Turkey because the Aegean bounce was not arranged. Interesting. I mean, like I said, if I'm Katie, I'm happy. So if this works and it gets Claire thinking that you're not anti-Turkish and Katie's also happy, then, good set of moves. But we'll see if that's what happens.
Alrighty.
Okay, so Micah does make the move on Patrick here, gets into Irish channel and Irish Sea and English channel. Casey takes Norway. Patrick prioritizes defending North Sea over the channel. And Picardy's moving up in position to convoy as well with a bounce in Burgundy. Katie moves right into Trieste while Julian makes an attack on Turkey. So it's a little bit of a later developing AI probably, although, we'll see if Trieste was agreed to or not. Seems fairly likely. Russia reacts into Galicia also, but it also moves into Turkey. It moves into the Black Sea. So has this just turned into a AIRT, or is something more complicated happening?
Right. Yeah, I think Trieste is agreed. I think Katie probably just goes to Julian here and is like, what's up with those moves? And Julian's like, no, I still want to do AI. And Katie's like, okay, how about I get the build then? And Julian's like, yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think if that's what happens, it's perfectly good moves. It's a good AI setup.
It's good position.
That's totally fine. I mean, they're not in Galicia, but it's perfectly good. I agree that the Black Sea is crucial. I think it's probably there to help for now, but it creates opportunities that didn't exist before for these AI powers. And then I think Judge Patrick's decision is pivotal, right? Let's assume Patrick knew what the moves were going to be. And Patrick probably had a good idea what the moves were going to be based on the spring, right? Patrick decides to hold the North Sea and drop Norway into Skagerrak, not even wait to be forced to retreat, drops Norway into Skagerrak. So Patrick is saying, Micah, I'm going to move into Liverpool and I'm going to try to defend from you easily smashing me, right? But Casey, go ahead and take Norway. I don't care. The person that I'm mad at is McAuliffe, and I'm going to try to punish McAuliffe for this. If you're Micah, I mean, come on. You're licking your lips at this. This is as good as it can get.
You're trying to use that Skagerrak fleet as a way back into the game if you can, to offer Denmark to Russia. But are you going to be able to keep the Skagerrak fleet when you're pulling something here is a part of the question.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Having to pull something here, you've still got North Sea. You don't want to, you don't want to be pulling that one, but though there's still only 2 fleets on North Sea, so maybe he can support Skag. If he were to disband North, he could support Skag back into North, because depending on what Micah does with English Channel. But well, we can go.
Sorry, I just want to keep reading because it's so useful to have the players in the chat. There was no agreement over the Black Sea. Russia just decided to slip right in there, according to Russia. So that's super interesting to note.
Yeah, especially with Claire having to, losing Bulgaria as well. Probably not ideal if you're not able to build something to counter it.
Antagonistic to Austria and to Turkey at the same time. So we'll see if he's able to make that work diplomatically.
Alrighty, well, we've got the sideline coverage for 1902. I'll pull that up and then come back to builds.
All right, we're joining you from an interesting 1902. Bradley, what have you been hearing while you've been following the West around?
First conversation I landed in was between Patrick and Micah. They start talking about the Fleet Breast build. And Micah says, I implied it, but I didn't promise it. I listened to those conversations, and even I'm not sure the wording was that vague. So Patrick moves on quite quickly and just starts talking about how they can work together. And says, "Let's bounce in the channel. Let's, relax. I'll just hold for a while." And Micah says, "I'm with you if you have Casey on board." It seems like Russia's the pivot point for the entire West right now. And Micah is going along with whichever one she prefers, but I think she prefers FG anyway. I missed some of the McAllis Micah conversation, but the gist of the spring was FR make all the decisions.
Absolutely. And I have to say, it has been really interesting. Russia, I agree with you. Russia does seem to be the pivot point. Certainly for the West, there's a lot of invoking Casey's name in discussions, particularly during spring. And it's very interesting to hear this. We noted at one point that it sounds like Patrick feels very locked in with Casey, trusts Casey, etc. And yet I land in a conversation in Spring 02 where Casey is just straight up pitching the exact tactics and moves to McAllis for them to both go against Patrick, which sounds honestly pretty aligned with what they were talking about in Spring 01 as well. And the way that it looked on the board looked like it was set up for that purpose. It just seemed like hedging a little bit to keep Patrick comfortable. It's really fascinating to watch Casey manage the negotiations quite well. He doesn't seem particularly nervous of going quite detailed and toe-to-toe with Katie and McAllis. He, manages quite promptly to say when people land in the room, Austria, I see you, I'll come and find you in a little bit. People leave, so it's really efficient in terms of the conversations. And there's lots of talk, honestly, throughout the whole year about whether there is or isn't a rat. And the answer to that, Bradley, is I've got as much idea as the board at this point, because I'm hearing conversations where it sounds like, Julian and Casey are talking and it absolutely sounds like a rat. I'm hearing discussions between Katie and Julian where Julian's like, I'm in the back seat and I don't know what's going on. They told me to move to Tyrolia. Don't we love using that excuse? What were you hearing in fall?
Maybe I can help you out, because right at the end of fall, I finally catch Casey and Micah actually talking. They've been DMing the whole time, apparently.
Oh, wow.
But they finally have a conversation, and Micah says, I don't mind a rat. Just don't let Claire win this game. And Casey seems to realize that Micah's fine with this. They have conversations. Patrick's still, even with the move to St. Petersburg, kind of confident. He spends almost all of the spring pitching about an anti-McAllis move down to Baltic Sea, down to Skagerrak. And everything I heard from every other room that Patrick wasn't in was Casey's going against Patrick. But he doesn't seem to believe it.
It's really interesting to hear that. And also I believe we both caught at times Patrick speaking to neighbors of Austria and Italy and Russia, very much saying he doesn't think there is a rat at all, which is also very interesting. And just, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this shook out, because it's quite hard to tell from the conversations right now. Everyone is being very adaptable, pivoting, and telling everyone what they want to hear. So where is the truth? We're about to find out, and we'll see you in 1903.
Whoops, sorry. So go ahead.
Sorry, I just wasn't, while you were getting that straightened out, I was just going to say, the conversation we didn't get is between Katie and Julian in terms of what happened with the AI. But it seems pretty clear we've got the West all united against England at this point.
Yeah, it seems Casey has really pulled one over on Patrick, which is, nice work if you can get it. I think it's too bad for Julian that Julian seemed to have such a fantastic relationship with Casey through, the first couple of turns. And AR is often not enough, right? If you're AR, you kind of need another friend, or you need something strange to be happening in order for that to be your primary alliance, because you can't really build fleets and all the rest of it. But they really look to be on the same page. And they've kind of pushed all their units in other directions and they were looking good, and then they back like this, and they just lost a lot of momentum there. And the momentum now shifts, I think, a little bit in favor of Katie. So it's too bad to see that if you're Julian.
Definitely. I think you're just muted, Dan, but did you catch anything from... there you go. Did you catch anything of note? What do you reckon is going to pan out here?
Yeah, no, good. I've got some thoughts. But I don't want to interrupt the flow. I do want to see the builds, because that'll inform the...
Let's see the builds.
Yeah. Okay. So I took some notes about what they said before the game. These guys. I said I was going to, about what they said in their little interviews. Patrick, I like being next to Micah. That aged well. I want agency. I need agency in the game. I'm pretty sure he's had none. This is a really tough rap for Patrick, and I think his choice now is who to be most angry with about how the fact they never really gave him a go. I think that person's going to be Michalis, because ultimately Casey, he's a Velociraptor, I reckon. So Velociraptor's gonna Velociraptor, and so he has done. And the dot was there, so he took it, and he needs some enemies. He can't just sit there permanently, Jay Buddha. Claire said, I think I have a good relationship with Casey and also with Julian. I feel really good. I mean, she does seem to have a good relationship with those guys, but, her position's okay. I think, it's recoverable. This is a top board, right? It's not regular board. It's a top board. Completely recoverable. Michalis, I've got to get Patrick and Micah fighting. That's literally probably one of the only things that he said, right? So that's it. But Michalis' plan is working, so let's not lose sight of that. I think whatever he's done with Russia, like whatever relationship he's fostered with Casey, is for that purpose, right? And now he needs to also win the peace, if you like. Katie, I'm happy that Mike is in France. I really do like a wintergreen. There it is. Julian, I just want people to be not angry with me, is what he said. And I think that has come through in his moves. Like a lot of his moves have been about what can I do that engenders the least upset. In many cases, like what can I do to try and stay ahead of it. But Casey's got to watch out for the Velociraptor, and I think that's what's happened, right? The active player, the most active player, has been Casey, and Casey has therefore dictated, like I said, with his builds, what was going to happen, with what he did with them, with what's going to happen with this game. So, is Micah still playing? No, that's her third build, right? There it is again. Great. So there we go. That's what I think. Casey's got that fifth. Is Italy? You've got to get that fifth, right? You're no sort of Italy until you get that fifth centre by hook or by crook. Doesn't matter what it is. Get that fifth. So she knows.
Can I ask Dan a question?
Go. Shoot.
Dan, how do you feel about Fleet St. Petersburg?
Well, so Army Norway is totally useless, right? So normally, you want to carry on against England and get your next centre Edinburgh in this sort of configuration and be part of an EFG, you prize Sweden out somehow. You probably go Norway, St. Petersburg, Sweden, Norway. I think what's happened is I don't think Casey's decided who his enemy is in the set. That's what I think. Because if you knew, I've gone into Black Sea, that's probably not arranged. I've gone into Galicia, that's probably not arranged. Like, he's gone there because he can, but he's not trying to attack everybody at once. And I think without building, if you build in the south, if you see any more armies turning up in the south and you're Julian, you're like, that's it, I'm cooked. Russia's bad. And if obviously, I love a fleet Sev. If I'm Russia, any opportunity to get two fleets in the south and really, put your foot on it. He hasn't done either of those things. I do believe in cross building. This is a long answer to a short question. I do believe in cross building. I think if you gain in the north as Russia, you should build in the south, and same with disbands, vice versa. You project the strength in the other arena. So I probably wouldn't have done it. I think he does have a bit of a logjam. unless it's going to be dropping down into the Baltic, which we all know is possible, and using Norway to come down. And I don't know. It's a logjam, isn't it? Is that why you asked? It's a logjam.
It's that, and it's the fact that Casey seems to have moved against two powers in the south, and neither has not fortified either border, right? So Romania is in danger here, Galicia is in danger here. If Claire moves everything back, I think you would have preferred either to have built Army Sev or Army Warsaw, so that one of those battles can be a winning battle.
It shows to me that he's thinking about, aside from taking down England, he wants to have some power in the north after that, with however it plays out between France and Germany. But with the concern in the south, is he even going to get there to that stage of the game? So that's it's a big gamble, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, I don't think we mentioned earlier, this game goes till 1910 as well. So there is a lot in it. In the chat, Casey did say that he was a little indecisive with what to build on this turn. So I reckon we go to 1903 and see how it's panned out for him. I'll give you a break for this year, Ben, and we'll see you in 1904.
All right.
Okay.
So let's start.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take the play-by-play. Dan takes the color, as is his want and his prerogative.
Yeah.
Let's start in the west. What do we see? We see a convoy straight into Wales that Patrick couldn't have stopped and didn't even consider trying. So that's going to be a build for Micah right there, easily. She could have maybe been a little bit more aggressive if she knew that Patrick was fully throwing it to her, but I think she wanted to make the moves that were certain to work, and I can understand that. She self-bounces in Burgundy, and McCallus takes Belgium. Now, I still think this is arranged. I think if this was not arranged, you would take Belgium from Holland instead, most likely. But it's kind of a funny arrangement. And I do wonder, if I'm Micah here, whether I like the idea of ultimately transferring my build in Liverpool to McCallus at the end of the year, especially when McCallus clearly has such a good friend in Russia. And you can see McCallus and Russia working together, popping Skagerrak, which was probably a questionable piece to keep on the board for Patrick, and all the rest of it. So that's interesting. That's good for Germany there, right? In the east, we don't see Katie moving west at all, as was perhaps predicted. What do we see? We see AI versus RT. No big change there. So this is kind of the way that AI versus RT goes. You know, they kind of go swings and roundabouts. It takes a long time. It's pretty stalematey. Bulgaria goes up into Romania. Khan gets into Bulgaria. So it's 1 up for Claire, even for Austria, 1 down for Russia. But, you know, it remains to be seen what actually is going to be the ultimate balance of power here, right? Because this is they can only play this game for so long on a top board before somebody needs to actually make a move.
Yeah, great commentary, Johnny. Love it. And you're absolutely right to point out that logjam in the north for Casey, because he's recognised he's got 1 too many. And I think these specific moves signal that St. Petersburg army will probably end up in Moscow and so on after that. I don't know if he's necessarily slowed in the north, but he has got a unit that's doing nothing, which super sucks. There's actually a little bit of a, you know, Casey's got a little bit of a problem with Germany in that he needs Germany to advance. And, you know, this attacking Skagerrak eases pressure on Germany, you know, as well as on Russia. But I wonder if it's more useful for Germany, because after all, you know, Germany's not going to want Russia in the North Sea, is he? Like, that's just more support for Germany to go into the North Sea, I would imagine. Micah, you're out on a limb with Belgium, with all those German armies sitting there doing nothing. I think you do need to to ship one to Germany, because otherwise, if you do build Liverpool, then you have to choose something else to build, and then you've got 7 and maybe 4 of those are armies, and I don't know how happy Germany is with that. In the east, yeah, we talked about, is AT going to figure it out, right? We talked about that, and the first 2 years looked like it was going to be the classic patchy, scrappy, Bulgaria, scrap, Aegean, scrap, one dies, the other one dies, wintergreen. But now, doesn't look like it, right, Johnny?
No, but I don't think it's going to stay this way. Personally, I think and even Claire, who's the only one building here, has a Russian fleet in the Black Sea, and that army in Sev could convoy right into Ankara here. Russia or Turkey couldn't stop it.
Well, let's see, Brampton.
All right, let's push it through.
Okay. Sticking in the east, which is where Dan and I were last looking. Romania is retaken by Russia and it retreats forward into Ukraine, and Vienna makes it into Galicia. So this looks like a victory for Russia because Casey keeps his unit, but this is really a victory for Austria tactically. Austria's position has much improved in Galicia and Ukraine. Although St. Petersburg comes down to Moscow, so it's still going to be a tactical slog. Down in the south, there's the Austria and Turkey play a little dipsy daisies. So Bulgaria back to Austria, Greece to Turkey. Fine, it's all the same in the end, really. In the west, okay. So Micah gets London and Liverpool. Okay, so Patrick is declaring his intentions with force. Yeah, I'll show this for you, Ed. Stacks on Patrick. Boy, is Micah going to be able to capitalize on this? McCallus is going to be very vociferous that the fact that Patrick is throwing everything to Micah mustn't mean that Micah takes the upper hand in the Germany-France alliance. Because if it does, that will unbalance the alliance. They'll have to go to war. Nobody wants that. So, Micah, you have to give me Belgium. You have to give me Edinburgh. We have to play this in a way that is safe for me. Is Micah going to be okay with that? Or is Micah going to say, I'm going to take what's being offered, right? And I'm gonna take the whole English island, and I'm gonna go ahead and take Belgium back, and you're gonna have to deal with that, McCallus. I think that's gonna be the next question. And Casey is having fun. He's got a fleet in Norwegian. He's got a fleet in Norway. He's probably maybe gonna get Edinburgh. Was it all worth it? Maybe. I'd be looking askance at McCallus right about now because I'm not sure what McCallus's next build is if you get Edinburgh.
Yeah, you bet that Casey is working it. I mean, we know he loves a DM and he likes to be in rooms. You can better believe that he's working it in the north. Micah, you've got this. Go for it. Build lots of things. Hey, McCallus, we're besties. You don't need to worry about me. Look, I will immediately vacate Skagerrak, and just like you have the North Sea, it's all yours, mate, and all that bananas. I want to focus in the build will be very revealing because I said that to a certain degree as France, you don't want to build right now. And you've been absolutely clear that McCallus is going to, if he gets the chance, if he's seen it coming, if you get 2 builds, if you do get a build, what will you build? That sort of chat. McCallus will be saying things like Fleet Marseille, perhaps, like that sort of thing. And the reason he'll be saying that is that, in my opinion, 1903 has been catastrophic for Katie. And her prospects. Absolutely. If you put one player on the board, obviously Patrick's having art time, but he was done for. And I think broadly, it was that sort of, the waltz at the beginning where you mark your dance card in, before 1901. I think Patrick was kind of done for it in that phase. And, we've all had those sorts of no-fault eliminations over the years. I think, before the game, we were saying Katie's possibly the strongest player in the South. We know that she's absolutely amazing diplomacy player. She's the strongest one. She could have the wintergreen setup that she wants. She can almost pick a dance partner that she's, and we all know Italy, and then she got that 5th center. So she's got agency. She could have built army or fleet, probably, made her own decisions. And this year, she has used 1 unit twice to bounce something. The first time irrelevantly, and this time, I don't know, semi-relevantly in terms of the A versus T conversation, but not for her own benefit. And the rest of the time, she spun her wheels. Now, I know it's a top board. I do. But when the Western Witch has gone down and your Witch hasn't, or in fact, you're not, how is Micah going, how is Micah going to be able to resist Fleet Marseille? You might ask. Not necessarily now, but soon. Where's it going to come from? Katie's going to need her moment where she gets two. Ooh, I'm worried. She's spinning her wheels. It worries me. Julian obviously paying the price for, that inertia, but back in it, right? Getting back in it, trying to, I don't know, and the RT, I don't know. Tough for Julian.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's go to the sideline coverage and see what vibes Zoe and Bradley picked up on.
We are heading into the winter of 1903, and this year, from what I've been hearing, is all about the impacts of Russia choosing a friend up north. So right off the bat, Michalis and Casey jump into a chat. They sound extremely locked in. They're still talking tactics in the way that they've been talking, particularly in 02, but honestly, the whole game so far. And they're discussing the impact of Patrick's disband, which is very friendly to Micah and very irritated at both Russia and Germany. Then I fall into a chat between the whole of the West. Mike is saying that she doesn't mind Patrick keeping two fleets and holding back the tide of Russia. And Michalis is basically saying that he doesn't feel he has a reason to agree with that because he doesn't think that Casey's going to attack him. This falls into a EG discussion where Michalis is repeating this. Patrick kind of goes, "Oh, I don't think he can be trusted." And Michalis says everything that Casey did was agreed, implication with Germany. And Patrick is mulling this in quite a heavy way. There's quite a bit of silence. It's never nice to find out that someone you thought was your ally has turned against you. And yeah, Patrick's just trying to convince Michalis that he's in danger, but Michalis is absolutely not buying it. Fascinatingly, later in spring, I hear Micah tell Katie the plan between her and Casey was to do an FGR and then for Casey to stab Michalis. So there's a bit of interesting double crossing happening here. The fall moves, I should say, before I pass to you to hear what you've been listening into, is that we see a strengthening of relationships between Austria and Italy this turn, and it's notable that the moves that went through in Fall 02 are exactly what were discussed between Katie and Julian as representing them locking in with each other. Bradley, what have you heard?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that Patrick might not know, because I jumped in a spring conversation and Micah and Michalis are already talking about how many builds they're going to get and how many. They obviously discuss tactics and they go through it. Micah's giving up Belgium because she is expecting to get 2 of the English dots already. And it just feels like they've already got a plan in motion of exactly how this year's going to go. I jumped mostly in the East to see what was going on. Claire said to Katie at one point, "You're the only one who's telling me the truth here." But then it was commented that the East is probably a Claire versus Katie battle. It's a bit confusing. The vibes are all over the place. The Russia-Austria conversation in the spring felt like chill vibes. It was a bit non-committal. They were discussing a convoy to Armenia, and then Casey said, "Maybe in the fall." Funnily enough, in the spring, Julian made a move, so that might have been a good choice. How was the fall for you, Zoe?
Yeah, absolutely. It is really interesting. I wasn't in the South as much, so I'm interested to hear what you're going to be able to tell me about that. But for me, the entire fall was this centered around this discussion, this quite impactful discussion that Casey and Patrick have, which is kind of a Casey coming hat in hand, but with nothing to offer Patrick. Just basically, they land and Casey's trying to say, do you really want Micah to run away with this board? And Patrick says, Micah's not going to take 2 centers off me. We're getting her back Belgium, which is exactly counter to what we've heard Micah and Michalis discussing. Casey sounds like, frankly, quite horrified by this and immediately runs to go and chat with Katie, with Claire, and disabuse them of the notion that that Micah is in any way not going up a ridiculous amount of centres this turn. The immediate thing that comes from both Katie and Claire when they respectively land in this discussion is, oh, but she's losing Belgium. No, she's not, says Casey. No, she's not, says Casey again when Claire brings this up. And so Casey is very much ringing the alarm bell. He says to Katie, what can I do to get you comfortable going west against Micah? This is a threat right now, and we need to manage it. But the South is still squabbling, and it sounds to me like Austria is kind of becoming the odd one out. But at the same time, Katie's nervous about the
It's
RT.
funny you mention that, actually, because I was listening into the Wintergreen conversation, and they were and Casey was saying, I just want to go after Austria. We have a bit of a discussion of Claire's involvement in this. But then late in the fall, I jump into an Italy-Austria conversation, and within about 20 seconds, they start talking about moves, agreements, move to Aegean, move to Bulgaria. It sounds like Katie has complete control, and Russia might not know it.
Oof. I am really looking forward to seeing how these pretty intense negotiations have shaken out on the board, Bradley. Viewers, we'll see you in 1904.
Okay. I'd just like to note as well with the sideline coverage. So they listen into the conversations in both spring and fall, but they don't hang around to see the fall moves go through. But they do get the context of all the conversations. So, yeah. What do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah, that's it's pretty much in line with what we were talking about. It's really interesting to hear what a good rapport Katie and Julian have got and how they're straight into talking about moves. But they're lapping up against the shores of the Black Sea at the moment, and so their capacity to actually collaborate on in an effective manner is limited. And I wonder if Julian knows well that the longer that he can keep Katie in rooms talking, the less time she is persuading Casey to convoy to anchor and things like that. I think what Claire builds here is critical because it's a no-brainer. Fleet Swarm no-brainer, right? Except this is a top board. Everyone's been talking about Micah running away with it. So Italy's got to have one eye open. Russia's running rampant, and you've got to see that number on the board. So if she builds a Fleet Smyrna, she is what she's effectively doing is nailing Katie to attacking her. Okay, and I don't know if that's what Katie wants or needs. Katie's going to need something to do, but if she's facing 3 Turkish fleets, then there's only so much she can do. Is Claire what's she going to do? What can she do? What would you guys do? I actually think this and obviously Micah's build are pivotal. Yeah.
We have a comment from Katie in the comments as well saying that the RT wanting her to go west, so she asked for a build in Greece, but Claire wasn't willing to support her in, and Katie wanted that extra support to stab her ally in Austria to be able to go west and deal with that threat as well.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's very hard for Claire to give up her 4th as Turkey, right?
Yeah, it's a really tough call.
I think when you're playing a top board, you got to remember that everyone's always looking at a path to the top. And that's maybe true in all games, but especially in a top board. So normally somebody might say, go west, we need to deal with the biggest power, but in this case, Katie's got to be thinking, there's no point in me going west if I don't have enough that I'm going to gain from it. It's going to give me a chance to win. I don't want to just be a roadblock to Micah and let somebody in the east win. And you got to think about this. I don't think Casey's saying anything that's not true in terms of Micah getting strong, but imagine if Katie goes west, if McAllis goes west, if Casey gets to come over the top, that puts Casey in pretty good, and Austria goes down, that puts Casey in pretty good position to collapse down on the German or the Turkish centers at some point, right? And to get everyone pointed away from him. So it's always both ways you have to be thinking about whenever somebody talks about going after the leader.
You think you build an army in Ankh, Dan?
Yeah, you could, or an army in Smyrna. You could do that as well, because that makes you uncrackable broadly as well. It makes you much less delicious looking. 3 fleets in an army, 2 is just like England. The more I look at this board, the more I realise there's so many inflection points, so many critical decisions about to be made. Austria's got to disband, but he's got 2 on Warsaw.
Yep.
Right.
So
I think you pull Bulgaria.
I mean, you could, right? You absolutely could, and then you're suddenly, Turkey's best friend. But then you probably need to take Warsaw. So are you going to be Turkey's best friend? Is she not working with Russia? And Serbia, you could pull Serbia, right? You literally could.
Yeah.
I mean, and then Michalis has to build. Michalis has to build, and no one is going to be happy because Michalis has done this wonderful thing where he's made himself not the guy that everyone is talking about, right? And when he was sitting there so depressed, he had to have Germany because it means everyone's going to gank him and everyone's frightened of him. And everyone spent the first 4 seasons talking about how scary Michalis is in Germany, and now no one's talking about Michalis really except he's and now he's got to build. He's got to pop up. Hello, here's my 6th unit. It's right. No one's going to be happy to see. He's got no ally that wants him to build anything. I mean, have you ever been in that position where literally France isn't like, oh, I need you to build X to help our alliance? No, I need you to build X to kill Russia. Right. Ooh.
Because they don't have a target yet. This happens when your initial target goes down, right? And any build, any move is going to declare a target. I mean, unless he really talks his way out of it. But one thing that strikes me as interesting is to go back to the AT thing. This is one of the things that'd be really different if you were playing a extended deadline game where you were allowed to negotiate during the winter situation. I feel like there's a lot that Claire and Julian could work out here, especially against Casey. But you're not allowed to negotiate during the builds in a face-to-face game. And what's their relationship right now? The build and pull would to work together would be a bit of a gamble, right? So we'll see. I'm very curious.
I think it's Army Berlin either way.
Will Micah wave?
Ooh.
I mean, Michalis cannot wave, but
interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Is Micah worried about Katie at all? Is Micah worried about Michalis at all? I feel like maybe not with Michalis, but if she wants to potentially combat fleets in the north and the south, then I think she needs another fleet.
Let's see it.
Wow.
Wow.
Claire Bradbury, you have the Dan Lester Prize for smart builds. That is in a high pressure situation when you're under the cosh and you're looking at, you've got 4 bad fleets in the south and you've got 2, and you're hanging on out there with Greece with nothing, and you're Turkey and there's a big old hole in Smyrna and no way through the middle to put that army down. I said Turkey wasn't out of it, and now Turkey really isn't out of it, because with Fleet Marseille, Katie's time's up. Time has gone off. Your game is, you've got to go. Sorry, you've got to go. I've got to go. So, and Claire can benefit. Brilliant. Genius. Well done.
And Julian pulled the fleet as well, gives him the most ability to reconcile, I think, with Turkey, or even if not, it creates the Italy-Turkey. You two can fight if you need to with your fleet. I'm not involved. I don't even have a fleet. But I don't think that's what he's aiming for here. I think probably they try to get together against Russia.
Yeah, no, this definitely could pan out to be a very positive game for Claire. So, yeah, well, let's move on to 1904. We'll see you in 1905, Johnny.
Michalis made the most innocuous build possible, the most plausible deniability. I'm not against anyone, so I'm very curious to see his moves here.
Did I not already have an army keel? Oh, sorry. Did I build anything?
How did that get there?
Alrighty.
And it doesn't go anywhere. They finish up their moves against England. Oh, all three of them. Oh, our only enemy is England. All of us together. Taking Edinburgh from North Sea with Russian support. That's one for Michalis. Michalis also moves into Bohemia, so starting to get involved in the east here. Katie slides Marseille to Spain, Gascony to Marseille. Not Katie, Michalis, Micah does that. Sorry. Katie moves Venice to Piedmont, but nothing else is moving west. Instead, the AI seems to be continuing here as Austria takes Romania. And wow, Ukraine gets retreated into Moscow, which is going to be very difficult to deal with. Claire moves forward into Bulgaria. So I was wrong about Austria and Turkish cooperation, but it still goes decently well for each of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this defense from Casey. I don't know if there's anything better because I haven't had a really long time. I think there are more boring defenses. Certainly, I don't know if they're better. It's a very tricky situation. It's 4-on-4 though, so you feel like it could be. He's used black to support Connaught, so he obviously, you know, he's got his eye on the retake of Romania. But yeah, the alliance structures stay the same. I'm really looking forward to seeing how long Katie and Micah spent in a room together from the sideline reporters. I'd be fascinated because Micah, that Marseille build is obviously going to have been a surprise build for Katie because I'm not even sure Micah herself would have foreseen getting the two builds as we previously heard. So it's getting the 2 up, 1 down. So she will have had to have worked really hard on Katie to get to be like, you know what? I am for some reason unconcerned about Western Med Gulf of Lyon, Piedmont type shit, you know? So, okay, let's do this thing. Let's just pretend one another isn't there. And that's what they've done. But, you know, Katie has used this opportunity to line up a bit better on Greece. But, you know, still 2-on-2. So
there is an argument to be made if everyone's telling Katie, you have to go to stop Micah. She's so strong. You know, you can say to Casey or to Michalis, you're each strong, you do it. I don't have to do it.
Yeah, I've got one thing to say here. I'm going to do one of my bits. Sorry. This is a bit about it's about Micah's move. Okay. So Micah's, I think, you know, from many objective points of view, Micah's in the strongest position on this board at this moment in time, or arguably is, you know, it has the good seat. I think she's worried about getting too big. I think she's worried about getting too strong. She's obviously worried about going one way or another way and leaving her other side exposed. So obviously this is highly Jade Buddha, right? Everything stays the same. Wait for Michalis to get his units in the positions that he wants them, and for him to make all the builds that he wants and to have all the safety that he wants, so that Michalis can choose whether he wants to be an FG or an RG. And I'm not sure I like that, because you're trusting Michalis to choose you. Now, if you think your diplomatic hold is good enough in a top board, or, you know, or you just want to go like, I'm going to sit tight and wait for, you know, positive things to happen for me, wait for RG to fight anyway and look impregnable. Okay. It's only 1904. I just think she, you know, you've got that step and she's chosen not to use that step of pace. If you think about what someone like Katie might do, or someone like Claire, or even someone like Casey, if he can get the whip on Julian, they can catch you. They could catch up to you. So let's see. That's a conscious choice of Mike to stop, right?
To wait.
Not to. So we'll see if it was the right choice.
All right.
Oh wow! And she chooses to dive down into the med now.
Yeah.
Put 2 on Tunis, and meanwhile, Katie does not get into Greece. Oh, interesting. Around Marseille tries to go to Piedmont to Tyrolia. Bohemia bounces it. I'll be very curious to hear in the sidelines whether any of that was set up intentionally between Germany and Italy. Galicia covers Vienna, and Austria takes Romania, but is willing to pull the Moscow unit off the board rather than retreating to Livonia. which is an interesting call there. And Turkey tries to move forward into Serbia, but not really expecting to get it. They didn't even really try to take Romania back. It's a little bit playing patty cake in the corner there. There's not a lot of strong offense that could have really moved forward. Oh, they're trying to protect Greece. I got it. It took me a second.
So in the West, I think Mike has probably spent, after having spent a long time with Katie, she's probably spent a long time with Casey in the fall, and has come to the conclusion that Casey is not going to crash down on Michalis and if you look at where the material is, probably doesn't have the capacity to do so with the Austrian behind. So Mike has obviously maybe thought in a similar way to the way I was thinking. Do I want to let the board make decisions for me, or do I want to take advantage of this strong position that I have worked so hard to build? And she's gone, to hell with it. I'm going to make a decision. So she's made a decision. And this, without doubt, in my opinion, is a massive betrayal. Because those two, Katie and Michael, will have, from the beginning of the game, let's do that DMZ. No, we work together. We don't even have to. The best thing we can do is not work together, is disappear. Everyone knows about FI. Right, and then in that spring of 04, drawn down on that well again. No, nobody wants to get stuck in a quagmire in the Mediterranean, la 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 la. And then it's worked, and you feel great. And then in the fall, bam, there it is. 2 in the med, 1 behind. Not much to do with the stuff in the north. You'd be hoping, if you're Micah. Katie, meanwhile, she's tried to get something going in the south. Again, not been possible. Doesn't have the time, lost too much tempo, doesn't have the time to go Eastern Med and all that bananas, got to get something now, doesn't do so. And, we've got to give credit to Austria for this, because Austria has played an amazing tightrope game. Since it became massively imperiled in 1902, he's clawed and scratched and fought and bit his way to being viable. And that piff in Moscow means he can rebuild in Budapest. And now he's got a viable four-army Austria with a bunch of Italians who can choose whether to flow west or to flow east, or just enemies everywhere that she looks. Obviously you have to do something about the juggernaut now. Whoops. So that's the new problem. But that's for future me. I love the ebb and flow of this board. And there's Michalis. Now, this is one of my, I would love to know, Bohemia to Tyrolia. Okay. Has France asked for that? Has France asked for that? Because that's bad for France. Real bad. Because France could have been in Piedmont.
Right. France is trying to make an attack. I get the impression that Micah thought that Katie was moving somewhere that they were going to get to, and so that they would get into Piedmont. Michalis, the move by Michalis could be because France asked for it, or because Italy asked for it.
One way or the other, it's real bad for France, because it's going to slow things down a lot. Look, Katie's got nothing behind. If she gets into Tyrolia and Marseille's in Piedmont, good golly, Miss Molly. Horrible. So Katie's caught a break. Or she's done it deliberately, in which case, great work. And Michalis, well, there you go.
Okay. Nice work.
Alrighty. Let's go to the sideline coverage.
It is actually. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bradley Grace and Zoe Cameron.
No, that's all right. Shoot.
Oh, I was just realizing the effect of Michalis sending that unit to Bohemia is that he took pressure off of Russia by making the Austrian unit move back. So it's just further making me think that Germany and Russia are locked together.
Cool. Alrighty, let's see what they have to say.
Rejoining you for 1904. Bradley, what is the tale of spring?
Well, I joined in the East, and we don't have all day because there was so much going on, and I can't keep track of it. Russia and Turkey are jumping in a room. They feel like they're going to be on good vibes. They say, we need Katie on board, but she keeps lying. I haven't been in the East that much. I haven't heard many lies, but I'll take their word for it. And they say that the AI alliance is too slow. They're looking at the West a lot. I hear Katie and Russia talking. And Casey is saying, hey, go take Greece and then maybe look at Vienna in the fall. They don't know that I heard Casey agree to go down to Albania. Now, there was a lot of tactics talk. Katie also agrees to go to Piedmont. That was an ask from Julian at the last second. And then I jump into a room with Claire and Julian. And Claire is pushing, saying, what is your path to winning this board? Julian doesn't seem to buy it and seems to just trust Katie.
Oof. Yeah, it's been interesting. I heard a little bit of chit chat in the East as well, with Claire trying to mend fences with Julian, pinning the move to Greece on Katie, which is a little bit audacious. And it does seem like there's somehow a battle for Julian's allegiance, while everyone is also saying it's really hard to trust him. He keeps making these moves that seem erratic and not very efficient. So I heard that from Claire, I heard that from Katie. And the other interesting thing that we keep seeing, and I don't know, I think you've got some of these interesting conversations as well, is the FGR going into a room together and having a good old chat. So, Casey walks in and says, there's 4 Austrian armies. Somehow they're convinced I stabbed them. Some funny bluntness from Micah, as we would both expect. Well, you kind of did stab them. Just because, you might have seen it coming and they should have seen it coming doesn't mean you didn't stab them. And Micah really likes the idea of the FGR sticking together. And this is where Michalis says that he'd really like to go to Bohemia. And he and Casey are putting pressure on Micah to go southeast and start dealing with Katie, whose allegiance, though getting shakier with Julian, is a point of problem for them.
I picked that straight up in the fall, and I decided to follow the FG around, see what they were thinking. And it was very much a McCallum saying, hey, you need to make a move south. Not in those words, it was kind of slowly pushing the button, slowly making that clear that, hey, this is the direction you want to go. And at one point, Casey joins the call and says, well, McCallum has already committed to the south with Bohemia. Now it's your turn.
Oof.
But then they talk about what Bohemia is going to do. And it's not going to Vienna because Austria is probably going to cover that. He doesn't want to cut Galicia because getting in, that's the worst place for a German army to be. They eventually agreed that he will go to Tyrolia so that Micah commits south. And I believe you overheard that Katie and McCallum might have discussed this.
Yes, so this has been really interesting. So to just give a little bit of context, Katie has been pretty dejected all fall, if not the whole year, basically saying she has no help to anyone. No one's giving her solid offers. She says to Michalis, Julian stopped working with her. Claire's saying take Austrian dots, but not offering any assistance and not offering good dots either. And that Casey can't help her get into anything. So with this lamenting, Michaela suddenly says, hey, bounce Tyrolia. I don't want to be there. I've been told that I have to go there. I don't want to be there. That's not useful. Clearly not wanting to turn towards Katie, doesn't think that she's the calamity in the East at the moment. And we saw just before we jumped in that bounce went through. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to shake out with this blockbuster FGR and the dynamics there, and for the rest of the board. We will see you in 05.
See you later.
Alrighty. What are your thoughts on that?
Some intense diplomacy going on. We were thinking that Micah was waiting to make a decision, but it sounds sort of like she was encouraged into this decision. And McCallum was able to make sure she wasn't too successful by getting into Piedmont.
This idea that FGR all get into a room together and they all say, we've taken out England, what's next? And everybody agrees, we're going to keep going, right? We're going to smash across the stalemate line. We're going to take Austrian dots. We're going to take Italian dots. The 3 of us are going to be in charge. And then McCallum goes straight out of that room and goes into a room with Katie and says, why don't you bounce me out of Tyrolia? I don't want to be there anyway. Boy, I don't think I would have bought it if I were Micah. I would only have moved south like this if I were Micah, if I knew which of GR was going to be with me. And if I'm McCallus, I think Micah may have made a diplomatic mistake because Katie can defend herself, right? And Katie's been looking for something to do, and you just gave her something to do.
I think Katie can defend herself now that it's not French Army Piedmont. I mean, that was the move of the year last year, not having that French Army Piedmont. If that's them going threatening Tuscany and all that, because it would have been in Tyrolia. So Tuscany, he's got to be bounced with Tis and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Can we shout out Claire Bradbury? Quietly up one. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. What do you
If
think?
we were-
That's all right. You go.
I was just going to say, if we were going to play Pick'em here in the winner of 04, Claire's not looking like a bad pick, is she?
No, genuinely not.
That's looking good. Yeah.
Very good position. She's got. She's Turkey with a triple, like a Western, like a sort of a Western triple, although it's Russia instead of England.
I mean, we should probably, before I go, I offer a much deserved shut up for a year or so. I think, we can shout out Russia's, this strong way of playing Russia, because he's able to disband Moscow here, and it's only in Moscow because he had to go back and take Moscow back anyway after that mess. So, he can sort of weather a disband without too much, angst, which is fine. Doesn't hurt his, offensive capabilities too much. Russia's in a quietly great position to make lots and lots of decisions, but still not that many units when you think about how much diplomatic power he's wielding. And what does Michalis build? If he's going to take on Micah ever, does he need another fleet? I think he probably does. If he's going to take on Russia ever, does he need another fleet? I think he probably does. How do you explain building that fleet ever, especially with an army in Kiel?
This could be the time for a whiff.
Yeah, you can't explain it right now. You can't build a fleet and explain it away. That doesn't mean he can't build one, but he's declaring something.
It's tough. All right, let's have a look at it.
Okay, so it's the Army Munich, and it is the fleet Smyrna for Claire, which makes sense diplomatically to maintain the alliance with Russia, but unclear whether she should really be using that against Katie at this moment that the Western Alliance is attacking Katie.
I mean, St. Petersburg is an amazing disband for Micah. Like, that's her dreams come true. And, I know we were talking about her being worried about the RG, but she knows that R's not got a lot of material in North, and now even less. So, her concerns, if she had any about going south, Germany had an overbearing number of armies against her anyway, if you wish to use them. There's no German fleet gone on, and there's another Russian piece has come off in the North. That is the green flag for go. So why shouldn't Claire green flag for go? Why shouldn't she? If Austria, he's the swing guy now, right? He's the guy who's going to make the decisions. Hi, everyone.
Oh, see you later.
All right, see you, Dan. We'll see you in 06. All right. Here we go. Spring 05. Johnny, if you want to kick us off.
Sure. Okay. McCallus stabs Micah, right? This was maybe foreseeable with the build in Munich. Micah clearly didn't foresee it. So that's pretty interesting. Boy. Maybe Peckerdy's just holding, right? Yeah. It's really, I really think that Micah has made a mistake in going for Tunis, right? Especially under these circumstances where you're never really going to get Tunis anyway. I take Dan's point that if the Piedmont bounce hadn't happened, it would have been a slightly different story. But I think if you're Micah, you just have to be thinking like, what does McCallus intend to do with these units? And this just made so much more sense than the alternatives. She's playing France, so the position's not lost. Paris can be covered. Marseille is fine, although are we going to have IT now? Or IAG, sorry.
Yeah.
You can cover Gascony. You're going to lose London, which is going to be a problem. But, London is only holding itself, so kind of whatever. And Casey makes an incredibly interesting set of moves, right? Because Casey pieces out in a strong way with A and T. So this maybe now is the rat that we were talking about way earlier in the game. Black Sea to Sev, if I'm Claire, oh my god, this is the best day of my life. Black Sea to Sev, you won so much love with me for that. Warsaw to Prussia is going to have a walk into Berlin. That's huge. And Bohemia supports Warsaw to Galicia. So McCallus and Casey had agreed moves, and these were not they, right? That's awesome for Casey. This is great. He's going to walk into Berlin. And Ukraine and Warsaw is still a strong front. But the question is, what's going on with the fleets? Right? What's going on with the fleets? It's a little weird. Norwegian to Clyde and Norway to Norwegian seems to have been the arranged moves between McCallus and Casey. That's why Edinburgh is supporting Norway to Norwegian.
Right.
And so that Clyde can be supported into Liverpool or something. But then instead of doing that, Norway taps the North Sea, which is cute and fine. But surely if you're going to be stabbing McCallus for Berlin, you want to be in Skagerrak or Sweden and Norway, really. Drop into the Baltic or walk into Denmark. That would be catastrophic. So I think...
Could also have taken North Sea and disrupted the convoy if he'd have wanted to. I'm not sure if it's a different type of attack, but
yeah, that's right. So I'm really confused. I'm really confused by that. I think this is maybe one of those instances where you change your moves at the last minute and you don't get all of your units changed. I think Norwegian to Clyde here is terrible, right? If you're going to stab McCallus, this is a great stab. Walk into Berlin, but you need to be in Sweden and you need to be in Norway. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's going to be really interesting to see how McCallus reacts, right? Does anything happen in the south? Not really. Claire is in the Eastern Med. Claire is pretty likely to get Ionian here. Katie's probably going to let Claire have it, right? It's probably what you would do. And Julian, this could be an attack on Katie. Trieste and Tyrolia, the bounce may be not agreed in Trieste. Yeah, that's how I read it, I guess. It's the rat attacking Katie.
Trust but verify, because Serbia doesn't support Budapest to Trieste. It supports Romania just to be safe against Russia, I guess.
I guess that's how I read those moves. It's not. I don't think it's very effective from Julian. I don't think it's a good idea from Julian, really. But okay.
Mike and McCallus must have had some kind of plan, because Mike is supporting Edinburgh to Norwegian, which is kind of, I think it is, right? Brandon, can you do the thing where where you can see? But I think that's what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe McCallus had made some sort of promise about going the other direction. I also wonder if this is a way for if Micah actually expected to get Tunis, or if she was staying in Mid-Atlantic on purpose. But if she was hedging there, she's not hedging in Burgundy at all. So it's sort of not a strong enough measure.
And this is one of those places where if you're Micah, you can tap Belgium and tap Burgundy and just ensure that, nothing wonky happens without supporting herself into Burgundy. She's worried about Piedmont. I just think the breakdown in relations between France and Italy is so catastrophic.
I don't know why I would have expected to get to Piedmont this turn. So probably don't have to worry too much about Marseille next turn, though, because Katie's going to want to cover Venice.
Right. That seems to be right. Yeah. Katie's got a good point that Kiel to Munich would have been a better move for McCallus here. It's all gonna be. I mean, it's all gonna be the question, and how is McCallus gonna react to this? I don't know if anyone in this on the stream has ever stabbed McCallus Camarades on top board before. I've had the distinct pleasure. Oof. I wonder what's the word that could accurately describe this sensation. I'll keep looking for it as we go into the next turn. But Casey is going to have an experience of a kind that Casey has likely not had on this top board so far, and it will be interesting to see what the reaction will be. Wow.
It's not entirely expected.
Wow. Go for it, Ben.
Right. So Casey does walk into Berlin and comes down towards Denmark, and Clyde goes back to Norwegian, whereas McCallus takes London and stays in Burgundy, but doesn't. But Ruhr goes back to Munich. So Mike has switched back towards the north to deal with this stab, but also Katie has let her into Tunis rather than letting Claire into Ionian. But she's not totally recovering her diplomatic position because Austria is still taking Trieste. Oh, but at the same time, Russia takes Romania. Could that possibly have been agreed? It's not a good deal for Austria. No, because Russia's getting Berlin.
Look at Casey go. Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's worked out very well for Casey.
There's so much to say. Look at Micah's moves. Marseille to Burgundy, Piedmont, Picardy, Holtz. I mean, she read him like a book.
Yeah, she doesn't try to find Paris. Yeah, it's a good
This
point.
is a soul read. I mean, this is the kind of thing. She doesn't cover Paris. She doesn't cover Gascony. She doesn't use Picardy to support Marseille to Burgundy because she doesn't want the retreat. She knows exactly what McCallus is going to do. Exactly. Wow. And McCallus is the best tactician in the game. And Casey and Bohemia supporting Warsaw to Galicia again. So Casey convinced McCallus that he was going to back out. And you know, took him for everything that he's worth.
Bohemia supporting what and where?
I think Bohemia is supporting Warsaw to Galicia again for the second turn in a row.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, because the move on Picardy makes me think that McCallus plans to continue west, not just he can just stab for a dot and then say if I don't get it, I'll back off. It's a plan to continue over a series of moves.
And it's over for Katie now, more or less, right? Katie's back down to those 3 that she started with.
Yeah, she's down to 3. Claire's coming on. I mean, I don't know how do you think taking Romania changes things in the East here?
Julian should play the Ed Sullivan game and say to Katie, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. It's over now. Sorry, we had a funny little moment and it's over now. Tarolia goes back to Vienna now, and I'm going to go fight Casey. That's what Julian should do, but if you'll notice, Romania comes off the board where it could have retreated. So that's a little bit curious, I think. And obviously, Katie has declared in favor of Micah against Claire, right? This was a deal. Katie says, Micah, just go ahead and take Tunis. As long as you back everything else up, it's okay. I'll defend Ionian while I can. So Katie has declared it's good for Micah. It's bad for Claire, although it's still pretty good for Claire, really. I think it's just going to be an RT. Why would they stop? Why would Claire stop? Why would Casey stop?
Yeah, and Katie's going to have to pull one here, which is going to make either Venice or Ionian vulnerable the next turn.
Katie's going to have to pull 2, correct?
Yeah, you're right. 2.
Tunis and Trieste. And we've got Julian in a position again where he's managed to sort of trade off a center and then get to rebuild. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's bleak for Katie. It's bleak. It's not quite over, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, we're
get Julian back on side, and you would, I would, I bet she's asking Claire to go against Russia over and over and over again, and can't get it to happen, because Claire's had a lot of agency here, and it's not necessarily bad either way. We were talking a few turns ago about how she could have made the move on Russia, but it is Claire seems very steadfast here.
I mean, Casey is some kind of diplomatic god. Where has Casey been? Where did this guy come from? I mean, he's playing a board with two of the best players in the world on it, as if it were some kind of, I mean, wow. And he was one of these players we were saying is like a new player, not sure how he's going to hold up under the pressure.
The patience is important, and that confidence he had in the interview seems to have come through in not panicking and not feeling like he had to do something. I mean, you normally don't see Russia sit around still that long, but it has worked here. He got Micah to move first, and then he got, well, I don't know how it all went, who to do what, but there were three of them sitting. Micah moved, then McAllis moved, and the one who didn't move, who stayed and waited, came out on top of it.
That's right. That's right.
All right, well, we're just over the halfway point now, with that being the end of 405. So I think we'll pull up the sideline coverage, and yeah, they should have some nice stuff for us to listen to for this year.
It is the end of 1905, and Brad, I'm just lost at this point. I feel like everything that we have seen and heard in negotiations feels like someone has just walked into this game and flipped the table based on everything that we've heard up till now. Can you give me some insight as to what's going on? What was happening in spring?
Well, I'm a little confused as well, but I'll try and take you on a path. So France and Russia were having a conversation, and it was more so I don't want to take Norwegian Sea, but where else am I going to go? And they talk about it's just confusing. It eventually becomes a France-Germany conversation, and all turn they're talking, who's going to move to Norwegian? Is it going to be North Atlantic? Is it going to be Edinburgh? And Micah at one point says, my only fear is that you convoy into Yorkshire. Could be relevant, but I didn't hear McAllis at all mention this to anyone. I think a lot of DMs were flying around at this point because I heard nothing. At one point, Katie joins the room when it's a France, Germany, Russia, and says, are you three working together? Because I want to join. This East is crazy. And I think at one point she says, why am I not drinking? So the vibes are interesting. So that was the spring, and then moves happened and it went crazy.
Yeah, the vibes have gone like very odd. So the thing that was the story that I was listening to in spring was that somehow, in what to me, based on what I've heard, seemingly out of nowhere, someone has like found a dead rat, a dead ROT, and gone, what would happen if we stuck like a couple thousand bolts through it? And so it's kind of back to life. And so all of a sudden, Austria and Turkey and Russia are talking like they're old chums. There's a point that I'm listening in spring, listening to Casey and Claire, and it almost sounds like Casey's being quite non-committal. And to be honest, all the conversations that I'd heard between McAllis and Casey all the way through this game so far, I was like, this is kayfabe. Surely Casey is not, actually going to go against Germany. And then we see the spring moves go through, and all of a sudden it's a German stab on France and a Russian stab on Germany. What is going on?
Maybe it can help, because Casey and McAllis are talking at the start of fall, and McAllis is obviously pretty angry. And Casey says, this was just a protection in case it was an FG. I don't actually want to take Berlin. They talk about Warsaw going down to Galicia, him not taking Berlin. And I hear Katie and Casey have a conversation. And Casey says, Katie said, in what world do you not take Berlin? Casey's response, this wasn't really a stab. And Katie's reply was, oh, McAllis asked for Prussia? I don't know what's going on. At the end of the turn, I heard that Italy-Turkey conversations were very, very weak. Like, I don't think there's much of a relationship there, if at all. And then the last conversation I heard was between Katie and McAllis. And McAllis says, well, if I lose Berlin right now, I'm throwing Sir Micah. Katie's response, I'm so mad at this East, I'm already throwing to Micah. You be the judge of what that's going to happen.
I mean, that is, well, yeah, that sounds pretty much like what's happening. I heard early that I walked in on a Katie and Micah conversation, and Katie saying to Micah, if I lose Trieste and Tunis here, you may as well stay and take Rome and Naples. I was a bit shocked to hear that, honestly. And then, got disabused of the notion that there was any sort of like arrangement between Germany and Russia, because Michalis said to Micah that he was fuming at Casey. And it was just very odd. The other like tiny bit of note, which I think just is really talking about how this game is going to crumble out from here, is just that reanimated, electrified rat that I mentioned has promptly turned around and died again. So it was a very short-lived Lazarus of the rat, because already Russia has taken back a centre from Austria. So RIP the rat again. And I'm really, like, the thing that just keeps me wondering here, Bradley, is what happened between Michalis and Casey? Like, I'm just sitting here questioning that, because it felt like there was just a really strong, tactically locked in, strategically locked in conversation. Do you have any insight as to what happens when something just suddenly goes so south like this? What might either of them be thinking?
My guess is that Casey was a bit non-committal and did moves to protect himself. And Michalis took that as no, you're stabbing me, I'm mad. Which I don't disagree with.
Yeah, I did find it interesting that you said that Casey once again said, oh, this wasn't a stab. I think, there might be some definitional things that we need to look at here.
It certainly wasn't agreed, but I don't think he saw it as a stab, or at least that's how he was trying to portray it. But who knows?
Yeah. Oh, I believe he doesn't see it as a stab, but I'm wondering if that's particularly accurate. Anyway, it has been a wild 1905, and I'm sure we're in for some intense conversations in 1906. Signing off.
Alrighty.
Hi, I'm back.
Hey, Dan.
Hi.
What did we get from that sideline coverage? Because obviously it was a pretty big year. Casey turning on Michalis, a lot of big conversations. Katie feeling pretty sore by this point as well.
Every time I come back with my notes. And this time I've come back with my notes about what Casey said at the beginning of the game, amidst all of his extreme confidence and his joy at the opportunity. He said, I like the touch grass method of playing diplomacy. And basically you just sort of try and keep it real until all of a sudden I'm invited into a bunch of dots. Well, from that sideline, it sounds like he could have touched more grass in fall 1904, or perhaps the whole year, or 05, and because it's now Micah who seems to be the one who's about to be invited into a bunch of dots. I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed by the sideline, I must say, because I'm super enjoying the game, and I think more or less everyone's prospects are still live, apart from Patrick. I mean, I've seen Austrians come back from positions not dissimilar to this, the top boards that have a warp and a weft, and top boards, in the European style, if I may say so, the continental European style, these sorts of warps and wefts happen all the time. And someone like Casey, Velociraptor's gonna Velociraptor, going, maybe I can pass it off in spring as a misorder. I better make sure that I don't tell anyone around the board about my intentionality. Oh, I'm a silly old Casey, silly me. Bam, there it is. I got a dot. Never mind. Everything's still okay. We can still patch this up. Everything is fine. Continental European style. It does concern me that Michalis might. We know that Michalis has the capacity to think, well, that's it. That's my chance of stopping this board gone. So I'm going to exert, I'm going to make this a teaching game, basically. Don't stab me. You'll find out. Katie seems from the sidelines to be quite dismayed with the way that her game has gone, and perhaps blames herself, as I know that she can get down on herself in these moments, which is, not ideal. You just got to kind of, right, wipe it clean, start again. Imagine you played the best game of diplomacy ever and start from here, right? As the diplomacy player that you can be, and just go out and do it from now. So I don't want to see this game thrown. I would hate that. I would hate to see people give up, but that's what happens. You get this critical morale failure in these long games, where I've talked before. Is your dream gone? Right?
Katie's in a really difficult position here. I could see Katie throwing or at least becoming a Janissary to Micah. McAllis is still in a very viable position here, especially if he can change anything diplomatically. And he likes to punish people who stab him, but he's also a champion player who likes to play to win. I don't think he's giving. He might say that he's giving up to try to get Micah to do something, but I don't think he's walking out of dots right now.
I agree. And
I agree with that as well.
And Claire's still very much in it. And nobody's talking about Claire anymore, right? Everybody's talking about Micah. Everybody's sure talking about Katie. Everybody's talking about McAuliffe. Nobody's talking about Claire. This Claire who's going to be an Ionian in the spring and has Greece and Bulgaria. And I don't think this game's over yet. I think Julian is a hinge, right? Does Julian continue to try to attack Katie? That's bad. That'd be really bad. That would be bad for the whole game. But I think if Julian puts an army in Budapest down and says, right, sorry, let's get back on track, then I don't think Katie's going to follow through on that threat to throw everything to Micah if Julian can be convinced to stay the course.
I mean, if she pulls one of her fleets and Tunis is willing to help defend Ionian, then she doesn't lose Ionian right now. So it really hinges on the relationship with Austria.
Definitely. So what do we reckon Katie pulls? Piedmont, one of the fleets?
Albanian, Tyrrhenian, probably.
Oh yeah, sorry, not Piedmont, Albania. Yep.
Yeah, Albania, Tyrrhenian, yeah. Oh, probably.
Casey, do we think he has to build something in the north?
St. Pete, South Coast, and Warsaw.
All right. Let's have a look.
Do you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah. Good call.
And Micah having a build as well.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of needed to make sure it was clear that McAllis wasn't getting Paris.
Yeah. Alrighty. I don't remember whose turn it is to have a break.
To take a break.
It is, yes. All right. We'll see you in 07. All right. Well, it's definitely spicing up. And yeah, like from that sideline coverage and everything, I definitely agree that people aren't talking about Claire, but her position here is very good. If just depends what Julian in Austria does. So we shall see. There we go.
Okay. To stick with the program. So these are the moves that we more or less expected, I think, given what we heard in the sideline, which is McAuliffe is going to turn around. And in fairness to McAuliffe, he didn't have much of a choice, right? It would have been functional suicide to stay Micah aligned. He had to at least come back into something resembling a compact position. But Casey nails the guesses. I think Casey nails the guesses by moving into Denmark and Kiel. I'm not that quick at the tactics. I don't think Kiel will be held. Well, it's going to depend on what Micah chooses to do, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if... I think Casey might be over his skis. Maybe. I think McAuliffe is going to lose a couple, but I'm not sure they're going to come from the east. I think they might come from the west. And in the south, Katie... So Julian does the thing that I was dreading. And I think this is really, really sad to see. I think taking Venice... I think this is one of those situations where Julian feels that a couple of game years ago, he didn't know what to do anymore. He was in Galicia and Ukraine. Everything was falling apart. The original plan wasn't working. He didn't know what to do. And Russia and Turkey came to him with the plan. And he agreed to it. And he really ruptured the relationship with Katie. And there were probably some conversations that were a little bit tense. And now he just doesn't feel that he doesn't feel that he has the ability to change course again. It's just he's already changed course too many times, right? And I think that he's now doing this out of a sense of obligation rather than because he thinks it's a good idea. And that's really, really tough.
I love it, and I'm going to disagree with it, Johnny.
Okay, let's hear you.
Well, to me, Italy splits 3-1 always. It's either Venice, Rome, and Naples to one person, Tunis to the other, or Venice to someone and the other stuff to the other one. And really, the only game that Italy has remaining anywhere close to being adjacent to Austria is Venice. Mm-hmm. Now, if Austria is going to get anything done, he needs Turkey out of his hair. And the only way Turkey's going to get out of his hair is if he gets into the Ionian. If she gets into the Ionian. So, Italy having to lose a unit is probably good for Austria. Plus, he will get this built. So, at the end of the day, as I said before, Julian for a while has been in this "that's a problem for tomorrow me" type situation. And, a dot's a dot. A dot's a dot. And that's very European of me to say that. A dot is a dot. I'm interested in the idea that Julian has been able to once again choke it down and go back to Casey and say, I'm still your bestie. This rat that the sideline people keep saying is on, off, is on again. It's on again. Right? Casey, Julian's been like, yeah, fine, you have Romania. And Casey's gone again. Yeah, fine, I'll split the fleet in there and I will vanish. I will go west. And Casey is going to need every piece, every single piece, because he needs to make it, whatever he does right now, he needs to make Michalis the ham in the sandwich. Because if he falls back and if he's one step backwards, to use a very Russian analogy, Micah will go in behind. She will. She will have the whip of this, right? So he has to flood forward with everything, and Austria has allowed him to do it.
Interesting. Yeah, you could be right. My worry with Julian's moves, dot to dot. You couldn't be more right. I think that by ensuring the destruction of Italy, I think the ability of the board to push back against France is so limited now. But we'll see. I could be wrong.
All right. We'll move forward into the fall.
Okay. So Julian doesn't keep Venice because Munich taps Tyrolia. That's pretty strange to me. Munich taps Tyrolia because Michalis wants to help Micah win, and helping Micah win means helping Katie stay alive because Katie is also helping Micah win? Question mark? Is that why you do that? Maybe. Instead of bouncing Bohemia or something. And Claire walks into the Ionian Sea and takes Romania. And I'm pretty sure he takes Romania with the consent of Casey because he pulls Romania off instead of retreating into the Black Sea. Casey is going to have a ton of disbands.
Rebuilds.
So that's what I mean. Sorry. Has a bunch of forced disbands. Is going to have a ton of rebuilds. So Casey is kind of going to get to re-decide what his future is going to be because he doesn't keep anything in Germany. And Micah doesn't take anything from Germany. Doesn't take Eddie, doesn't take London, doesn't take Belgium, doesn't take anything in France either. She just moves everything forward. I think this is genius from Micah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the proof of that pudding will be in the eating. So this is, there's no doubt that Michalis has said, Micah, if you do some of these moves that will be part of the defense that I'm going to design for the, offensive, defensive that I'm going to design for myself to, mostly ironclad this stuff. And Casey does make a couple of errors. I think Norway to Skagerrak is, but there's no way to know. I'm not saying it's necessarily an error, but there are defenses that work a bit better than this. I'm still not quite sure why he doesn't retreat the fleet to Sweden. But anyway, by having the extra material and not having to worry about Belgium or London or anything like that, Michalis has, said, yes, and I will continue to flow east, and it's a teaching game, and I will throw to you. And Katie's, yes, and I will throw to you, and everyone will help Micah get all the gains. I hope that this is not true. I hope that what will happen is that once, Michalis is, and that's maybe what all these disbands are about from Russia. That's Russia saying, whoopsie, silly me, my mistake. Whoa, what am I doing all the way over here? Oh, boy, it's awful over here. I much prefer Siberia. I'm heading back. It's, will Michalis, that's Michalis' dream scenario to a certain degree, is that Russia gives up, in effect. And as you said, Johnny, it's almost a dream scenario that kind of France has engineered her own enemy to be reborn to a certain degree by putting her back into Venice. But nonetheless, what will happen next when we look at the position in the interface in winter? There's two possibilities for this game now. Number one, Katie and Michalis keep their promise to Micah, and Micah wins the board, and we don't have anything left to commentate on. Right, it's over. Commentary's over, game's over. It's just about who can throw dots to Micah quickly enough, because they won't change their mind, because they've had enough of those awful people in the East or whatever. Or they change their mind and they go, well, I might give you one. You can have two, and the game's still alive. So, obviously as a selfish commentator, I want this game to continue. So I would prefer it to be the latter. And if it is the latter, then Micah has made a mistake. Because to a certain extent in the north, she can just walk into a bunch of centres and have them and build the builds.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like if we have a look at the center chart here, we've got Michalis, Micah, and Casey all on 7. And yeah, the position is a little messy, but Micah has those walk-ins. So
a couple of things in the chat that I want to shout out because they've been really smart. One was discussion about how, from the perspective of Austria, if we're going to have this RAT deal to blow up the fleet in Romania, has to be Austria getting the build, right? Has to be Serbia into Romania. Can't be Bulgaria into Romania. From the perspective of Austria, you just have to say, look, guys, if you want me to keep attacking Italy, Romania is going to go to me, because otherwise this is a position you end up in. And I agree with that. And the other comment is just to say that now that we look at the winter, those disbands look pretty good from Russia, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we got to give it to Claire here as well. Like, especially lately, she's got a lot of experience. She had a top board experience not too long ago either. If Austria's not quite feeling it, not quite vibing, Claire has the ability to negotiate and be friendly and be convincing that she gets Romania. So obviously that's very pro Claire. Yeah, just being able to seize that opportunity is good. Not doing the thing that might actually make a bit more sense for Austria to get Romania. It's like, no, I'm going to get that because that's good for me. So yeah. We have our lovely sideline commentators, and I believe we're joined by Pixie as well for this year. So we will swap over to that and then come back for the builds.
We have just had Andrew Zick, or better known as Pixie, join us for what has been a very eventful and tumultuous 1906. Bradley, I'm going to throw to you to start with because I believe you heard a bit of a bombshell.
Yeah, so about halfway through the spring turn, I overheard Casey and Micah talking. And apparently Micah was the one who convinced Casey to stab Michalis, which, considering I think Micah's playing this entire game like an orchestra kind of makes sense. The vibes, I will say, are much better than before, mostly because Casey and McAllis are more than happy to help Micah win. And they're both just in a chat, vibing, talking a bit about the other players in a not so pleasant tone, and just vibing about how Micah's going to win. What did you guys hear?
So I heard a little bit of so the thing that I first heard in spring was just basically McAllis sitting back, resting on his laurels and going, I need to remind people that I do have this in my repertoire. Claire comes in with an approach that I've, heard quite a lot in Australia, honestly, just being like, oh, you're not throwing to Micah here, are you? And McAllis goes, oh, yes, I am. I told Casey what I was going to do if he did this, and he's going to feel the full force of my wrath. And Claire is actually stunned speechless. This is not something that comes up too often in Australia, that a throw like this as punishment could be, or working actively to make sure someone tops would be a super legitimate strategy. What were you hearing, Pixie?
Well, I don't think the RAT had nearly as easy as a time as everybody else on this board, who seems to have already made up their mind about 5 seconds into the turn. It was a lot of hard, complex, surprisingly tactical negotiations, mostly around what to do with Romania, which Casey and Russia had recently stolen. I think the clever outcome was Claire's suggestion that, okay, we can put the fleet in there, and we all agreed to that, but in the fall, what if you support me instead? So we're still blowing it up, but Austria doesn't get the build. Ultimately, I'm concerned about the A and the T with Julian and Claire, because it feels like they're both walking around the real issue here, which is halfway through, how are you going to both have a chance to top together? Maybe the answer was to cut Casey out, given the opportunity, if he's out on the ropes with Germany, there's a collapse there or something like that, but we'll see how it goes.
Now, that's a really interesting point, because later in the year, there was an interesting point where Micah comes back to this chat that's full of love for her, the Katie McAllis chat. And she says something very interesting, which is that she thinks Claire would work with her to manage Casey. And Katie and McAllis are shouting down this idea, going, if anything, that cannot happen, because Casey might end up throwing to Claire if she's in position to take stuff off him. You cannot be doing this. You can't be serious. It's very forceful. What else were you guys hearing in the fall?
It's less forceful and more, I don't want to say mocking, but sort of like dismissing the idea because it's not very attainable in their mind. So I don't want to say they're trying to force Micah into their path. It's more so they're just laughing about the state of the board. There was a lot of comments thrown around that I'm not going to mention. And it's just general fun vibes at the East expense.
Yeah, I did get a little bit of nice vibes. I had a brief moment with Katie, but again, most of it was just going, hi, oh, so you're doing this? Can you see the destruction that has been wrought? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the one interesting thing that I did catch, so Claire comes rushing back to talk to Casey at one point and goes, you need to cut a deal with McAllis. You need to give him a path to winning. That's the only way he's going to stop this. I'm sitting there thinking, there's a way that McAllis is going to stop this. But the conversation between Casey and McAllis seemed a lot more amicable than I was expecting, but still plenty of McAllis just kind of conveying, yeah, you could do this, I might do this, you might do this, and I could do that, but I don't really want to put in the mental energy to help you work out what I'm doing. So yeah, just all around a blockbuster turn. Micah also drip feeding parts of information to the rat as well, which I thought was very interesting. And I just can't wait to see how it keeps unfolding. Huge couple of years. I'm looking forward to seeing you both and the viewers in 1907.
Brandon, it's your DBN. We're just commenting on it.
Vibes, gotta love the vibes. Like it can be hard, like especially when there's stabs or poor plays or whatever, and if people are able to vibe and just get a bit of enjoyment out of the game and enjoy a chat, then that's a lot better than people stewing and not having a good time. So like might not be in it to win it anymore, but if you can get some fun out of it, then that's good. So yeah, but what did you guys pick up from that commentary?
Well, it's everything that I feared, is what I picked up from the commentary. I'd like to pick up on this notion about the East and the kind of the people being very upset about it in some way. I don't think I've seen anything out of the ordinary on a top board from the East. I mean, what would you expect? People didn't want to throw in to a standard-ish two-way or three-way. Didn't want anyone to escape. Didn't necessarily want to just kill anyone outright. And maybe it's the tenor of the conversations that were had that were obnoxious in some way, but I also find that slightly difficult to believe. I appreciate that it must have been frustrating, especially when you watch the West go gangbusters. But
it's been a bit of a mess in terms of trying to resolve it. And McAllister has been lied to by Casey, so I could see that be double lied to, it seems like, right? Oh, it wasn't a stab. Oh, I'm just going to go further, right? So I could see him being frustrated. And Katie seems to be frustrated with Claire. And they're both sitting here in conversations in the West talking about the East. So sometimes I feel like those specific grievances end up characterizing the game in the minds of the players. Even though I agree with you, I don't think the game has been drastically unusual.
I agree. I struggle to see what the East has done wrong in the eyes of. I mean, I understand from McCullough, I suppose, and in the eyes of Katie, Katie's just kind of getting screwed and is choosing who she wants to win. But I don't see that there's any reason why the feeling should be particularly harsh, right? I do think this is a hinge point though, because McCullough does not have to follow through from here. He doesn't. And Casey could offer to convoy Berlin back to Livonia, right? I mean, McCullough and Casey can now make peace if they can find it within themselves. The position allows for that. And the question is, how bought in is McCullough on this idea that it's more fun to throw Micah the game and to prove a point and to kind of dunk on Casey than it is to play to win? How invested is McCullough in that emotional reality? We're about to find out.
There's a critical conversation that Casey can have with McCullough, and I hope it's been had, and you never know the heat at the moment. But we know that, Micah asked Casey to come to her rescue when McCullough went in with that hard quality stab on Micah when she had come out of position in the South. And, Casey can look McCullough in the eye and say, look, I got persuaded because to me, she made it look like a good thing. Whether it's true or not, whether it was actually Casey climbing the walls to do it, doesn't matter. You have this conversation. You say, she talked me into it. And if I will help you get back in. And if I will work with you to get back in. And you can order my units. Screw it. You order my units. I don't mind. Here's 4 units. Here's 3 units in the north. You do whatever you want with them. Whatever you say, I'll just write it down to get you back into a position to get. I know it's Dog's position right now in the West, what with the way everything is. But come on, we've got 4 years. What's going to win this board? 9 might win it. And get the defibrillators in.
And in the meantime, Russia could collapse on Austria here if Russia and Turkey are right in position to tear up the Austrian units here. The 2 on Serbia is very difficult for Austria. Interesting. Oh, sorry. I had a thought and it came back to me. Look, Micah did a great job of creating a situation where she was everyone's favorite. If she really engineered that attack by Russia. It's a very good diplomatic situation. The attack on McAllister by Russia. Claire seems to realize now that the game might be thrown to Micah. And if there's any more flexibility in people's minds, it's on Claire now to try to create a diplomatic situation where people go, oh, we're not being unfair to Claire. We're trying to punch Casey, but we don't want to take Claire's chance away. She didn't do anything to to McAllis. I'm sorry, I keep doing that with the M names. Two people I know very well, actually. If Claire's got to be working as hard as she can to try to make this, because tactically on the board, she's in a position that could work out for her, but she can't have people throwing it to Micah or it's over.
I think Turkey's in a position to win a race even against a France with a lot of friends, personally. I think from this position with 4 years left, Claire can have 12 or 13 if she plays her cards right.
Well, how would you do it? Would you try to work with Russia against Austria to start, or would you just attack everyone right now?
Well, it totally depends. Totally depends on the kind of conversations you're having in the spring. But I think both are viable, and maybe even both at once is viable. Maybe. But depends on who your friends are. Depends on what Casey wants to do. Depends on how Julian feels. We'll see. I don't know. I don't. There's no answer.
Let's move on to these builds.
I don't like that build.
The fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of does lock you into a direction and moves you away from Austria, doesn't it?
It could be.
I mean, I
Go ahead.
could sell Fleet St. Petersburg, North Coast. I can sell to Germany. Literally, he's gonna need it to put him back in Edinburgh and all that bananas. He'll need it. It's yours. It's for you. It's a gift. It's got a bow on it.
It's the fleet in Smyrna.
Yeah.
The fleet in Smyrna that I don't like. I think the fleet in St. Petersburg's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry.
The only thing I can think for the fleet in Smyrna is that you don't want to stab on the builds phase, and actually you're going to bring it to con and it's going to go to the black, but you want it to look like that isn't what you're going to do. So you put it here, you delay yourself a turn, but you gain a turn of intel about what Casey chooses to do, and then you still move against Casey. Maybe.
Yeah, the army would have. If you're pushing into Serbia, the army would be good to follow to control the Austrian dots. If you're attacking Russia, the army would have been good to go up through Armenia. And I think you could try to sell. It's not an easy sell, but you could try to say you want to convoy it somewhere onto the boot, maybe. There's got to be some way to get that on the board. But this makes me think that Claire might stick with Russia longer.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see how it turns out. We're into 07 now. See you, Johnny. See you back in 08. All right, if we want to continue, Ben, take the lead. Dan, pull up with your lovely vibes.
Okay, so Claire does move forward into Eastern Med, forward west, holds Ionian, but there's another Italian fleet moving down to Naples to have influence on it. Serbia supports back to Budapest, and Turkey does not try to take Serbia. Russia is repositioning Bohemia. He's moving away from Germany, moving Bohemia back to Galicia, Moscow down to Ukraine, which gives some southern options, and Berlin back to Prussia. The fleets move north, Baltic to Sweden, St. Petersburg to Barents, whereas Germany takes Norway in such a way that it gives up the North Sea and Belgium. So on one hand, Germany is a little bit reconsolidating, but they are really ceding ground to France here as well.
Yes, it is as I feared. McAllis either did not wish to or did not believe Casey's offer. I think, Berlin has moved to Prussia, right? Baltic has moved to Sweden, St. Petersburg to Barents, Norway to Norwegian. So this is clearly Casey is trying to get out of the way. He's trying to do the thing that we talked about, maybe not as literally as I said it, but certainly the spirit of it. And McAllis is not yet interested. Not yet interested. So there's two things. Either A, McAllis thinks, again, lacked belief in Casey's genuineness, or B, he just wants to weaken Casey a bit more and make some of those purple units go away before he literally entirely go away before he turns around. or the of course the alternative is that he genuinely has decided that this game is done, that he has had enough of it, despite being in an extremely strong position, and that it's now time for Micah to win. Belgium's gone, Edinburgh and London are gone. Right, they are gone. But then if he gets Berlin and Norway, maybe Sweden, he's still level. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws. This is me clutching at straws.
It could all be gone this turn. I mean, really, if he doesn't cover Holland, it could be Holland, Belgium, London, and Edinburgh for Micah if she wants it. I don't know if that's how she'll play it. She might try to string it out longer, but
Micah being in North is just too good. There's too many things that she can just grab. So
yeah.
Spin it one more turn.
Alrighty.
And she sticks with just Belgium for the year, which is I wouldn't have left North Sea, but I might have taken one more than this. But she holds Norway, preventing Russia from taking it back. Germany gets Sweden as well. Pushes into Silesia, but gets bounced. Turkey now is taking Budapest with the Russian help, and nothing happens in the Ionian.
Just this in the comments as well.
Right. He's very, I didn't think he would give up entirely, but he is really giving Micah the position here to move on him.
Okay, so this is okay. So this, in the spirit of a chef who's desperately trying to save the souffle, I'm going to keep kind of, fantastically thinking of new ways why this game isn't over. The first way why the game isn't over is that Katie has actually strengthened up in the south and is trying to push Micah past her, which is which is definitely not a throw, right? I mean, they're working together because they must, but at the moment it's not a throw. Claire's obviously been like, this is maybe that third, fourth fleet. So she's stuck and has decided to I'll go for Austria for games, which we did talk about with Russia. We must do something because Russia's probably necessitous prostration of himself is now complete, right? I mean, he has lost 3. He is now way, way behind where he was when he decided to nip Berlin and steal Michalis' dreams. This would be a wonderful position for Michalis if he had anywhere to build, because it's better than what I thought was possible. And Micah's showing the patience that's commensurate with a woman who knows that she's almost certainly going to win because she's the chosen one. But nonetheless, this is really, really patient. If Michalis has 2 places to build here, which he could have engineered, because there's not a single person on the board who's willing to attack him, go to Holland, Munich to, I don't know, Bohemia, Tyrolia, arrange something. No one cares. Everyone, then he's got two units to go back on, and he's got a different, whatever it is, he's got a different position. As it is, he's not showing any inclination to do that. And he's blocked up his home centres. So,
yeah, he may not have expected the bounce in Silesia, because you wouldn't think that Kiel to Munich with support would have been necessary defensively. Because what does he expect, Austria and France to work together against Munich? Probably not. He's probably trying to open Kiel there, I think. But the bounce wasn't. Silesia with support from Russia isn't a crazy move.
I mean, if you hope to open Kiel and not just die and lose, then you do go to Holland.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just advanced sneakiness on his part to try and get that tie break. Go up a few dots, but have less units on the board. Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the sideline coverage for this year, and see what the vibes were.
It is just about winter 1907, And we firstly say farewell and thank you to Bradley Grace. Absolutely ridiculous time of the morning over in the UK. So we very much appreciate him being a champion on sidelines. And now we have Pixie. What were you hearing in 1907? What's been happening?
Not necessarily doom and gloom, but certainly the possibilities are narrowing. Really, it was a lot of just negotiating for second already, which is a little bit shocking given we hadn't even gone through the spring yet. But McCallus and Katie were having a pretty intense conversation about who in the East should get anything, not even crumbs, perhaps. That's about where I left that for spring. What were you hearing?
So, I mean, there's just a lot of, there seems to be little bits of hope. Talk about the East getting no crumbs. Well, the East are surviving on crumbs of hope that McCallus is going to change his mind about working with Micah. Casey bemoans to Claire, this is why I don't like competitive diplomacy. And it's this point, I believe, if my recollection serve me, that Claire sort of like tiptoes in and is like, well, you know, there are a few people who are able to win on this board, and I think we can say that your time has passed, Casey, but my time has not passed. And she seems to be like putting out the feelers for, would Casey throw, which interestingly, I believe we talked about last time as something that McCallus and Katie both predicted to Micah, should she be thinking of working with Claire. And Casey is quite non-committal about this and uninterested. It was also interesting, I believe you heard at one point Katie talking about how she should have been more explicit with Austria about tactics. And I was quite interested by that because I think that dynamic might have happened with a couple of players who haven't played with Katie much before on this board, and that it might have influenced things. I suspect Casey in particular, looking at who he kind of ended up locking in with, at first we thought McCallus, later we realized he's much more locked in with Micah, and still thinks he's locked in with Micah. Both McCallus and Micah, I overheard or, you know, heard reports of them being much more clear about like what tactics they wanted to see from Casey, and they were talking on that level. Whereas Katie's approach often tends to be like, I'm not going to talk down to someone. I want to let them make their own decisions about the tactics. And that might have not worked for her with a couple of the her less familiar neighbours and colleagues in the East this time.
Certainly. That does make a lot of sense, puts a lot of pieces together. But yeah, I broke out the hat because it's looking like Micah's game to win or lose, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. The one thing that I did pick up on in fall was I overheard Micah telling Katie that the stab on McCallus, Casey's stab on McCallus, was her idea, and that she was actually surprised that McCallus wasn't angry at her as well. And Katie says, quite bewildered, but you didn't stab McCallus? Like those moves weren't there. You were coming to attack me. It's interesting that this was Micah's perception, and it made me wonder, based on what you know about McCallus, if this information came to light, would it change anything about what he's doing right now?
I am certainly not a McCallus expert. However, we did have a couple help us out in the chat. I think the consensus is no. I think there's always a chance for people to reform themselves. But in this case, I'm not seeing anything that indicates that there's any kind of turning around going on.
I think that's right. The FGI conversations have been a total love-in with everyone talking up each other's skills. And the reanimated rat seems to be dropping body parts. And I guess we're about to see how this all shakes out. See you in 1908.
Okay. Thoughts on that?
I hate it.
I suspect that all the thoughts that I have left on this game are thoughts that I can talk about at the end of the game, which are thoughts on the current condition of certain behaviors in the hobby, and individual ways of playing this game, and how, you know, fundamentally on a top board, my overarching principle is about everybody comes in wanting to win, everybody, but not necessarily believing that they can win. And one by one, people they have their dream, their desire snatched from them. And the more momentous, you know, and significant the tournament, this one being a very large one, or a very, very small tournament, doesn't really matter. It always works the same way. And if someone has, you need to watch out for the people who, if you have your dream taken away from you, your chance to win, then you have a second victory condition. Fundamentally, everybody does. In a game like this, to come second is of no consequence. Unlike almost every other game of diplomacy you'll play in your life, tournament, friendly, otherwise, league, to come second is of no consequence. To win is all. And after that, you have to make up your own desire. It could be to come second, or it could be to get it out as quickly as possible, or it could be revenge, or it could be, you know, it could be to stand on your head for the rest of the game. Playing that secondary, that thing that people want to do after they've lost their dream is how you win top boards.
Yeah.
Bye.
A little tagging along with what you said there, Dan. Katie's mentioned as well that some discussions started to start about DB&I points as well. So, like, this being the last chance for people to earn DB&I points. But again, I think my take on that is that you should be playing the game itself and not aiming for something else outside of it like that. And
also, the points that everyone gets, the winner of this board wins the tournament. The points that everyone else gets are cut in half and added to their tournament score. And the points that you get on a board that you don't top in this scoring system are really low. And then they're cut in half. So maybe if you're in 5th place and you get second, you can be in 4th place in the tournament and have like 6 more DB&I points. But it's peanuts. I mean, it's really, compared to, you would take a 5% shot at topping the board from a DB&I perspective if you were a good poker player over a guaranteed second place.
It's interesting to see some people talking about lessons in the chat. I'm just looking at it, and it is interesting. A lesson that a lot of people like to try to teach is what is a good stab and what isn't. And sometimes that's measured by, can the person you stabbed do anything to you afterwards? If they can, then they might classify it as not a good stab. Now, that's not necessarily true generally, but the cultivation of reputation is like true as in an objective truth. But the cultivation of reputation can be important. And I think Michalis tries to do that. And I guess I'm furthering his aims here by saying this now that I think about it. But it's a big flashing sign saying, if you stab me and you don't completely incapacitate me, my whole goal will be against you. And that's another secondary motivation, like one that Dan's talking about, is formation of reputation. Can also be a ruse. He might still try to turn back on Micah here. It's just Micah's really developed a pretty dominant holdover to more of his centers at least.
That's it. And like was mentioned earlier, when Katie said that Michalis was going to try and aim for a sneaky tiebreak, like not having anywhere to build could have been crippling to his plans for that as well. He hasn't completely given up. He's just going to try and make the best of it. But yeah, he's backing that reputation of, you know, if you stab me, I'm going to try and punish you for it. And he's achieving that so far. So.
Don't turn off the stream though, guys. We still don't know exactly how it's going to finish out. Let's keep it.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually true. Right? I mean, look at the center counts, right? It's great that we have this great narrative that Micah has already won.
Right.
But Turkey's only 1 center behind Micah. Michalis is 1 center ahead of Micah. And Micah only has 8 centers, which is plenty of time. If people decide not to do this anymore, it won't happen. It will only happen if everyone continues to decide for the next 3 hours or however long this game is going to continue that they want to do this.
Right.
And
even if it takes Edinburgh and London, that's still only her up 1 on McAllis, and McAllis isn't even pulling because he's got 2 in the pocket now.
Precisely. And I mean, there's so many different flashpoints. I look at the Ionian Sea. Right now we have 8 units doing nothing around the Ionian Sea. And they don't have to keep doing that, right? I mean, IT, it could happen. Claire could offer to put Katie back into Tunis. They could easily put Katie into Tyrrhenian and then go back that way, and maybe they could work together around Trieste and Serbia or whatever it is too. Right? It's not too late to do that. And then maybe Micah loses 1 in Tunis, and maybe Katie gets back into the game, and Katie can get 2 or 3 more centers, and that's a good motivation for her. McAulif's position is not bad, and Casey has thrown the white flag way up in the sky, and maybe McAuliffe will finally now say, okay, I accept. This is what I needed. Now let's work together. It's not over. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Well, let's see what these builds are.
Who said that? Was that you, Brendan? That's so catty.
There we go. We have army from Claire and Con. That makes sense. And Casey had to pull 2, which hurts. But what do you think about the pull of Warsaw instead of something like Prussia?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Like,
Makes
it doesn't
sense.
make that much difference, does it really?
Right.
Alrighty. I believe it is. I don't remember who I'm sending off for arrest this turn.
me.
Is it you,
It's
Dan?
me.
All right, Dan. We'll catch you when we come back from the sideline. Alrighty.
Is he going down a water slide? Is that or something parachuting? That was good. He was exiting.
Yeah, that's it. I love Dan. He's good. Classic. All right.
Come on.
Spring 08.
Come on.
That is a big arrow down in the Ionian.
Okay, well, let's speed through the rest of it then.
Right.
McAuliffe does the dishonorable thing. For no reason. So McAuliffe is going to try to take Warsaw, and Micah's going to get it all, and Katie puts Micah into Ionian. Claire's position is still not bad, really, and Claire still has Casey working with her, but I mean, there's hardly any reason to luxuriate at this point on the specifics of the moves. McAuliffe's choice is everything.
Claire seems to have decided not to occupy all 4 of her units there on Ionian, and rather to go for maybe Trieste and get things going in a way that can be more productive. I might have stayed Eastern where it was, so that it could bounce in Aegean. I'm not sure if because Eastern Med, I guess it's a guess here regardless. But right, McAllis is advancing Micah's position to an extent that if it continues, is not going to work for anyone but Micah, is what I think what Johnny was saying, right?
Well, there's even play around Munich now as well with Micah and Tyrolia.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's
Brest to English lets her take London without moving out of North Sea. There's an advancement here that is going to be unstoppable if it continues. So yeah, maybe we just see the fall.
Let's just keep moving.
Yeah, Micah gets St. Petersburg. Micah gets London. Still has position to take more dots. McAllis picks up Warsaw, so McAllis will be building 3 if he wishes to. But he's advanced Micah's position considerably. Turkey does not get Trieste. What happens?
Disorder.
tries to send 2 units there instead of supporting Adriatic there. And Venice protects it. Budapest goes for Vienna instead, but Serbia cut it anyway. Anyway, so it clears up 1 and has a rebuild. Whereas Casey's down 2, Moscow and Sevastopol.
Yeah.
I mean, Michalis with 2 builds.
3 builds, right? Oh, it's only 2?
No, lost London, but
London.
still.
Yeah.
And France somehow convinces Micah to take St. Petersburg. Like, Micah sure feels confident, right? But I don't think it's over for Michalis.
Well, because St.
Not with those moves. St. Petersburg's his. It's not.
Right.
It's not Micah's. It's on loan.
But Warsaw can be taken back from. Yeah, we'll just have to see here.
He's got a disband. Russia's got a disband.
Yeah. Is he trying? Yeah. Is he trying to be? Yeah, but if Germany's trying to fight with France, he's not sitting there defending Warsaw with Silesia, with 2 units. So
he's got 2 builds.
He's got 2 builds.
What is he going to try here?
I agree with Ed. She needed to take more behind. He's getting too much back into it.
Really needed to stop him building, or at least building more than 1. So
he's definitely trusting in her the truth of her genocide relationship here.
Yeah. And what's Micah doing in Adriatic? That just seems. I mean, Tunis is really at risk. Maybe Katie is going to help put Micah into Trieste. There's another center on loan though. Trieste is going to be Turkish at the end of this game, not French. I don't know. I think Micah is taking her foot off the gas and trusting a little too much that things will stay as they are.
It still might work out for Micah, but it is very tempting to say, I can win this game without betraying the people I've been working with. I'll just take the dots beyond them. That could be a thought she has in her head, which would be very nice if she could win it that way.
Yeah. What do you see Michalis waving to? I don't see Michalis waving to.
No, I don't think so.
No, surely not.
I mean,
and
I don't know. It depends how much he's fully given up, but I don't think so.
I don't think he's given up. But looking at the center chart there, Claire's still on the rise. Like, she's only 1 point behind Michalis, 2 behind Micah, and she still has gains. So,
and I don't. If you're Casey at this point, I don't think you can begrudge her going and taking Sevastopol. Like, they've worked together the whole game. Like,
yeah, I think that's fine. Well, we may as well push into the sideline and see what the chats were for this year.
It is the end of 1908. Pixie, I note that your cap has mysteriously disappeared. What did you hear this year?
Well, I got my popcorn out too, because
Oh my
I don't think
gosh.
this game is quite over yet. With Germany taking the lead, yes, the position is crazy, but it's not the end of the world. However, that's not the person I'm most interested in. Claire in Turkey has very much not given up the fight, and I think very reasonably so. I'm hearing a lot of good personality analysis. Granted, I came late to this game, so I can't speak to what happened before and why nothing seemed to work out until now. But she's been given the works to Casey in Russia about this game. It could go on. Michalis could be the one that vetoes. Look at his position. He's eyeing these dots. It's not over. Yeah, you can, push him back, but there's nothing. So I think there's a little bit yet to go.
Absolutely. And this point that Claire is definitely not giving up the fight and sees a path for herself, this is absolutely playing out in discussions between the FGI. So Katie and Michalis are reiterating, let's be quite cautious with Claire. She's set up to take Austrian dots. She's also got some dots that Casey has left not totally undefended, but certainly vulnerable. Michalis is pretty set on reckoning that Casey could throw to Claire here. But albeit all of this, Micah invites Claire into a room with the 3 of them and talks through what an arranged draw would look like. This is happening at the start of fall. And worth noting here that Michalis and Katie are very quiet while this is being discussed and letting Micah sort of set out the terms of what this would be. And I see where they're coming from. I feel a little nervous about. Turkey definitely, cooking itself in a good way, like coming to a good roast. And then there's quite a stunning moment where Micah sort of breaks from the discussion and says, Claire, what are these moves you're messaging me? They don't match with what we're discussing here. And it's about Claire Shakara mounting an attack on Trieste. So then there is some interesting stepping around while Claire attempts to remedy this terrible misunderstanding about her intentions for Trieste. And what else did you hear?
I think I heard maybe the aftermath is that as well, coming to the factor with the conversation about Casey. Casey definitely was there for a bit of the arrangement and what the draw might be or look like and who and what center and how convoluted we could possibly make this. But he was very much, I think, keeping, I guess it's not stoic, but a respectful distance and just simply saying, I'm playing for my enjoyment at this point. I'm playing to get what I want out of this game. I will not veto a draw, says Casey, but nor will I just, flip over and waddle like a little turtle, that kind of thing.
Which is quite an honourable angle, honestly. So it's interesting to hear these discussions and hear what people think is going to happen. Will we draw? Will we see you back for a surely exciting 1909? Watch this space.
So none of them know either if it's over or not.
Pixie with the props, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still a bit going on. People saying they won't veto a draw, but they're still going to keep playing. People obviously being a little bit keeping their cards close to their chest. They're not showing exactly what they want to do, but yeah.
Roll it, Brandon. We all want to know what happens next.
Boom. Fleet Marseille. Gotta love it. Need another fleet in the med.
If she's being gifted the Italian dots, gotta go grab them.
Okay, roll again.
Alrighty. I reckon all three of us just stay on for the last couple of years, and we can push through it pretty quick, I reckon.
Sure.
I'll do the spring, Ben, you do the fall. Dan on color.
Yeah.
Moves in the spring that are interesting. Let's see if there are any. Not really. We have Silesia into Galicia. That'll be important. Albania gets piffed by Adriatic. I don't think that makes much of a difference either way. London up to York is going to take Edinburgh. McCullough sure doesn't turn around, right? That's certainly not what his plan is. Maybe he's going to try to take Vienna or something. He's running out of time.
Yeah, I think we said earlier, but this is a 1910 limited game, so there's 4 more moves left, including this move.
Yeah. It looks like they're not going to let Claire have it, and I guess if you're McCullough and you want to win, you need to make sure that you don't let Claire have it, right? If you just turn around with everything,
right?
You need to find a way to thread the needle, and that's a tall order.
Yeah, and he's not in position to take any of the, except for St. Petersburg, he's not in position to take any of the French dots. So it's not like if he was trying to go for it, he would be really turning around in a way to attack. He would just be trying to defend as best as possible, like Holland.
I'll try to snake it. Yeah, that's right.
There was also Micah's comment that was caught by the sideliners back in 01 or maybe 02, saying she wasn't really fussed what happened in the East as long as Claire didn't win the game. So maybe there's a little bit of that influencing some of the discussions and negotiations as well. Alrighty, roll through into fall.
So Micah does go into Edinburgh. McCallus gets Vienna with Micah's help, but Micah also gets Trieste with Claire's help. That's a pretty big change around in terms of Claire seemingly choosing Micah over McCallus rather than fighting for herself at this point. She does not take Sevastopol. and Leon moves into Tyrania. Rur's a little interesting. I don't know if that's arranged. I mean, it seems like a weird thing to arrange because it's leaving Holland open. So I don't know what if Micah was trying to get slightly better position or what was happening there. Casey also does not have himself set up on St. Petersburg anymore. Instead, he's apparently not wanting to lose Sebastopol.
There we go.
What is there to say?
Yeah, Tria's pretty important there. I mean, Claire's taken Mike has taken a considerable lead.
And Julian gone as well, eliminated on that turn.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for playing, Julian.
Yeah.
Yes. So Michael with a big lead. Oh, you go, Dan.
I've got a little interjection to make, which might contextualize what we're looking at. So I played with Micah not anywhere near as many times as you might think, given the number of tournaments that we've both attended and the sheer quantity of boards in those tournaments. We've only played together a couple of times, but I have noticed and I have heard, seen from a distance, that she has one among her many talents is an ability to dictate the terms of a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So during the course of a game, you will engage with various different diplomatic conversations with her, and among those might be some of the ones that we've seen happen in this game, including, Michalis talking to her about, okay, if you take your foot off my neck, I'm going to go and teach Casey a lesson, and if you do, then I'll, let you win, I guess, because at that time he probably didn't see any other options. And similarly, Katie, and Michael will take those and she will put them in her pocket and she will keep them. And the whacked out thing about it is that you will too. You will also keep them, the terms. And that thing we heard about from the sideline reporters about, okay, she's trying to engineer the end of the game, and it has a precision about it, the way that she does this, where she fixes the number of centers that you would be happy with, the number of other board conditions that you would be happy with. She's an absolute maestro at understanding these secondary win conditions that happen once you've already agreed that Micah should win, or that you should win jointly, or that you should have 10 in not situations like this, but that I perhaps should have 10 and she 9, or she should always have one less than me. And I've seen so many games with Micah where the board position ends up looking like a washing machine, with all the red like this and the blue like this and the green like that, because what everyone is trying to do who's in the peace talks, which we heard about from the sideline reporters, is to arrange the right board conditions where everyone will sign Micah's treaty. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And Julian isn't in the treaty, so Julian's gone, because those are 4 centers that could be distributed in a different way. And Casey isn't in the treaty, and Claire isn't in the treaty, but maybe this thing where Mike could be like, don't just text me other moves. Don't go about texting me other moves when we're having a conversation about the peace treaty. You're going to tell me how many centers you want in the peace treaty, and then we're going to get you there, with Micah just one ahead. So that's what we're seeing, in my opinion.
I agree.
100%. I agree as well. She's excellent at doing that. And how many tournaments has she won this year or last year, 2025 as well? Micah knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she's had an incredible run. Let's see if we're actually at the end, and then we can have all the backwards conversation.
Well, we have a sideline for this year, so
right.
We'll jump into that, and then we'll come back for builds to see if we continue on.
It is the end of 1909. We are rejoining you because these players, despite the fact that I think pretty much everyone on the board has said they want the game to be over, someone somewhere clearly doesn't want it to be over. Pixie, what have we heard this year?
It's time to break out the stress ball, because I don't think anybody here wants to be in this situation, including us. Just given the board state, given the moves, given the merciless execution of Julian in Austria,
Julian.
I just wanted to end. I just want it to end. I think it's been a lovely time. I regret not being here for the first half, certainly. I think that had a lot more progress and promise than what I've been around for. But at this point, I've had my fill. I think a lot of other players have too. A lot of the discussions at this point are just about coordinating anything and everything to prove that I'm not the person vetoing. So don't get mad at me. Go yell at someone else. Not literally, of course. It's actually been, I think, very civil in these conversations, but it's a lot of I'm making these moves, or what moves do you want me to make? And that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much the case. It is interesting, though, just seeing the dynamics of who is trying to convince who that they weren't the one vetoing, and the effects that previous turns have had on the level of trust that's there. Like, certainly, I think Claire has made some overtures that it's not her, but because there's been some, public revelations about what she's been saying in a channel versus what she's been saying in messages, it seems like people are a bit less inclined to believe that she's being frank this time. And it is really interesting. There's been a little bit of discussion about, the sort of combination of length and pressure on a top board, and getting to this point in the game where there is this kind of bit of a separation of people who so desperately want things to be over that it's becoming a bit erratic, versus people who kind of get very calm and just lock in and keep their eyes on the prize. And to be too specific about this would be a crime, Pixie. I'm not going to be too specific about this, but it's very interesting, and it's certainly fascinating to be on the sidelines and watch this and see who remains so even and balanced under the pressure, because this is a high pressure situation. There needs to be an agreement come to, or there needs to be, a change. And I can say we will not be seeing you for 1910, but we'll be watching with just as much excitement as we're sure the viewers are to see how this game ends.
Okay.
Anything
unexpected there? Nah, let's just roll into it. Go for
Let's
it. I like it.
Let's push on to the inevitable and glorious conclusion.
One says all in the box.
Changes their mind and kicks her out of Trieste, and I don't think that's happening, but let's just see it. All right, yeah, very little happens, actually. Do any units move anywhere? Just pressure to Livonia. I think that's the only one.
And even Norwegian, yeah.
Oh, Norwegian, right.
This is 6 players who want to draw and 1 who came to play diplomacy and doesn't want.
That's right.
All right, let's push again.
Micah gets 1, which is 1. That's the game for Micah. Congratulations, Micah.
Congratulations, Micah Blum. Wow.
Bravo.
Very impressive game.
Wow.
For Micah, just a dominant year. I do think, Johnny, you were saying at the beginning of the game that maybe she was right on the edge of being that superstar, and I feel like she's there at this point. Oh, I have a hat like Pixie too, so now we can all have the Micah hats.
Yeah, excellent game by Micah. From the beginning, getting 3 builds in 01 and pretty much staying in a solid position throughout the whole game, while not always being, having a clear run at winning, always maintaining a solid position and, just absolutely acing it diplomatically, even having Michalis have a jab at her first is beautiful, because then she can push back on him and he's like, fair enough, I already tried that with you. So that gave her a nice opening there to really be able to push it through to the end.
It's just a reminder that the diplomacy is more important than the tactics in this game, because she made the move south. It made her vulnerable. She started to get attacked, but if she actually engineered, which we heard she did, the attack of Casey on McAllis, that was the deciding diplomatic play in the game, and it was much more important than the fact that she exposed herself tactically.
That's it.
Yeah, and she got Tunis too, don't forget.
She did.
So, you know, there is that. I think, you know, what I said about her, you know, controlling the piece, that's, you know, that's a trademark Micah thing. She's also eminently choosable. And you saw that, you know, she made attack moves that were no less obnoxious in this game than other people's. I mean, she just full on told Katie she wouldn't attack her and then did, presumably. She just full on built in Brest when she said she was going to build in Marseille and then moved to the Channel. And, you know, she did these things. She, you know, when she felt it was in her interest, she also attacked people. This isn't a Care Bear we're talking about. But at the same time, she remained someone that you wished to choose. I think, you know, as being a British person, I will say she did it in a gentlemanly fashion, which is, of course, as sexist as it is old-fashioned. But nonetheless, I think, you know, that's something that's critical. And I thought Casey played a great game and learned and found out what the difference is between an actual top board and just a board full of really good players. And the difference is that that moment where he dotted McAllis was the defining, there was no coming back from it. And I'm not sure that's something that Casey's necessarily experienced before in that way. And, you know, it will be memorable as McAllis wanted it to be. And, you know, Micah didn't make that sort of mistake at all. Not even one time. And I think when you do make that sort of mistake, you have to make sure that you do everything you can to eliminate the person who has decided that they're going to dislike you. So bravo, great.
Well, we have Micah. You go, Johnny.
It's okay. Bring Micah
Okay.
on, and we'll sing her praises to her face.
Hello.
Congratulations, Micah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
It's the real champion, really here, genuinely, with us. Bravo.
She's the champion of. Yeah.
I want to know. Where's your trophy?
Oh, it's virtual. No, but Micah, how many events did you win this year? I was trying to remember a minute ago. It was like 3, right?
Yeah, I had 3 this year, so this was the 4th, I believe. Yes. Oh no, wait, it was technically, I think if we do it in DBNI years, it was 3, but this is the 4th overall F1.
Nice. Well, congratulations several times over. What a year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to know when people are going to start hating you because you're so successful and you keep winning all the time. You know, everyone still seems to love you. Everyone on that board loved you, and people like playing with you. In the preamble, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm cool because Micah's on the board." You know, when are they going to be like, "Oh no, Dan Lester's? I mean, Micah's on the board. I'm going to kill us straight away." When's that going to happen?
Well, that's very interesting because actually coming into this year, I told people around me that I was not going to have a good diplomacy year, that now everyone was going to target me and that I would not do well this year. That was not the case, but I do often get into boards where apparently everyone is warning everyone around me for me, but it hasn't really worked against me yet.
So, yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
Congratulations, Micah. A well-deserving winner of this tournament. You dominated the preliminary rounds. You dominated the top board. You made it look like you had no competition at all over a field of 70. So well done. It wasn't much said during the broadcast, but you played 2 top boards back to back. You only had about an hour break between them. This was the second one, and you played till what, 7, 8 in the morning, your time?
Yeah, I think it was 6:30 or something, and then we had conversations after, which lasted till 8. And then I had a birthday today to celebrate, not mine, with my sisters. So I'm a bit exhausted now, but it was very fun.
I mean, come on, you know, who amongst us can pull something like that off? So that's really impressive.
quite the experience. Even in the preliminaries, I was like, I wasn't, of course, assuming that I would get on a top board because that's a bit arrogant. But I was already thinking, like, what if, and making the plannings in my head. But I thought, if it happens, it happens. I'm sure I can deal with it. I've played a lot of games after one another previously, so I was at least familiar with that. Like playing two games after one another was not something I'm not used to. But having two top boards was definitely stressful. I mean, I spent all week thinking about the Paris method and who I wanted where, and also across the two different top boards because I didn't really want to play the same country twice. And then the other top board I played was 19-7, so that was a consideration I wanted to make, and that was a lot to think about. I woke up every day just immediately thinking Paris method and just thinking about all of that.
And you spent all this time thinking about it, and then you went first and picked France. So,
oh yes, it was.
I mean, how many variables can there be?
I was very much in doubt on what to do. The idea was kind of either I'm going to go first and pick France, or I'm gonna drop to something like fifth and have the tie break. And I'm very comfortable in the Eastern powers, so that was kind of what I was considering. And something that threw me off a bit was Katie dropping, because I was quite afraid of Katie in Russia. But then that didn't happen anymore, and I also had thoughts of trying to force her into being France, but because she dropped, that was less likely to happen, which changed my own things. But in the end, kind of my plan was I'm going to go with what I feel like in the moment. And during Paris Method, I thought, I want to play France. I'd like to play France. I've just played the top board. I was much less stressed for the second one. I was going into it much more positively, just thinking like I just want to have a fun game, and France felt fun, so that's why I picked it.
We've got a couple of questions about the game, right, Ben?
Right.
I do.
The moment that I felt was we all, I think, were thinking was the turning point in the game. You, Germany, and Russia are all sitting there waiting for a turn. And then you dive into the med, and for a moment, it seemed that you'd left yourself exposed to Germany. But no, here comes Russia with the stab that sets the diplomatic relationship for the rest of the game between the three of you. It seems really gotten McAllis on your side. And then later we heard in the sideline report that you had a hand in creating that Russian stab on Germany. So could you talk about your view of the entire, first of all, seeing three powers sit and wait after they've taken down England is an interesting thing to have happened. And then how that progressed from there to that stab from your perspective?
Sure. I will say I haven't been able to watch all of the stream yet, so I might repeat some things that have been said in the reports. I've watched a bit of it, but haven't gotten to everything yet. After we killed England, it was very clear that McAuliffe had a lot of growth, and I didn't really, because as France, if you're not attacking Germany, you're going after Italy. You will get Tunis probably, but the rest will be quite hard, and it seemed like it was rather easy for McAuliffe to get things in the north. So I told McAuliffe about it and told him that I wasn't quite happy with that. I said, like, hey, I see your path for winning the game, but what's mine? And he kept saying, I can just play it slow, and if I play it slow, then I won't scare you. But even if he plays it slow, those things are eventually going to be his senses. So I didn't really see a path there, but attacking McAuliffe will just lead to him attacking me, and then we both might not do so well. So I figured Casey was pretty much the key in there. I did try to convince Casey a lot to go for McAuliffe. I think if that happens, McAuliffe gets distracted. I either work with Casey against McAuliffe, or I just keep doing my thing in the south, and the two of them kind of tangle up. I do want to say I can't take credit for Casey doing that, because even though I DM'd him a lot about it and we've talked about it, and turn after turn I'm like, please go after him, this is the turn, I'll do it too. He did say that his eventual decision to go for it didn't have anything to do with me and had more to do with Eastern relationships. So I was very happy with it. It was very good for my game, and I did try to encourage it. but I was not the reason that Casey did that.
Well, it worked out wonderfully. You make it all seem so simple. And then the the one other thing before I pass the turn to the next person is, as you're defending from McAllis, you had a turn where you didn't defend Paris. You cut Burgundy, I think, so that he didn't get into Picardy. Did you have any intel on that, or was that just a great guess?
We had a sort of an agreement after Casey went to go to Prussia and try to take Berlin. McAllis told me that whenever a person attacks him in kind of a stupid way, he wants to punish them. He said, "You shall now reap the rewards," and made it very clear that he was gonna go for Casey, that he was okay with me winning, that he wanted to help me. He just wanted to punish Casey and to also show people that if you mess with McAllis, you have to deal with this. So he wanted to build up a bit of a reputation for himself. I was supposed to not go back at all. I was supposed to go off to Italy there, but I'm, of course, not 100% sure that McAllis is going to follow up on his word. So I chose to move back, but I did believe him in what he said, so I didn't feel the need to cover Paris. I mean, he had two on it, I think, even if he wanted to take it. He could not take everything. I could have played a slow game, so I kind of got back in a defensive stance where I could take his stuff. If we were to take together, if we were not to work together, I could still defend myself. Probably would not be a winning game, but at least it won't be an embarrassing one.
Nice, well played.
Excellent. Yeah. So looking forward to this year, 2026. Do you think you'll hit the brakes a little bit, give someone else a chance to win something?
Yes. As I said in your after talk, I do not plan to win DBNI.
You do not plan to, but will you be playing?
I do plan to play. I notice that I sometimes get a bit entangled in all the metagaming, and I'm sometimes on board where people are a bit frustrated, or it's really about how do I get as many points as I can rather than just playing a fun game or playing the best game you can. So in the upcoming year, I want to focus a bit more on having fun games, playing true to myself, which I also tried to do this game and worked out quite well, I think, and just really play the game and not just a lot of the meta. I'm good at the metagaming, but I enjoy the real game more.
Very nice.
Agreed. Yeah, very nice. Well, we
I have
look
no
forward to seeing.
questions.
Oh, yeah,
I have no
you
questions
go,
to ask
John.
about the game.
Go.
I can only offer you my congratulations. I think Ben
Thank you.
well covered the important parts. The question that I do want to ask you is, to what do you attribute your astonishing success this year? I'm curious
This
to
year
know.
or this
I mean,
game?
this year, the whole year. I mean, you went from a good up and coming player to the winningest player, consistently beating people that are talking heads on DBN or whatever it is, becoming the favorite now. I think in every tournament you play. What do you think? Why do you think that happened?
I think there's two things. I had some weak points that I've really worked on. So that would be strategy mainly and confidence. Strategy I've just improved by playing more and asking people a lot of questions. Confidence grows as things go better, but are also to do with how you view yourself and try to view other players as well. Being confident doesn't mean I always think I can win everything, but it does mean that I can be there, I can try my best. And the other thing I think works really well for me is playing very diplomatic games. I usually go to people that I've maybe stabbed and try to work something out. If I get stabbed, I'm also the person going to the other person saying like, "Hey, well done. What can we do?" I'd still like to do something, and I'm trying to really read boards, make people happy with me, be nice to people. I'm not sure if there's one specific thing. I didn't really expect to have this much success this year, but I think people like to play with me, and I also really do like to play with people. I usually give people compliments. I emphasize that I like working with people, and I think if you have fun alliances, then even if they don't work out well or something, that's giving you some diplomatic capital.
Wise words.
Yeah. Very good.
Great. Really great.
Any other questions, Dan?
What did Patrick do? Poor old Patrick. Eh?
We forgot about Patrick. He was gone pretty quick.
He was done very quick. Patrick didn't do anything wrong to me. McCallus made it very clear that he wanted me big against Katie, and that made more sense to me. And if I could choose between an FGR or an EFR, that's the one I pick. And after that, Patrick pretty much suicided into McCallus, let me grab anything, and said like, "Well, you've lied the least to me, so you can take it if you want."
Great. Well, I think we admire your many qualities throughout, and after you leave us, I think we will perhaps lament the extent to which others permitted it. I know I'm not a big fan of it myself on top boards, but you did. I think we talked very well about you being able to play the secondary game extremely well. Like once people have moved past an obsession with winning and they've kind of said to you, okay, I'd be happy if you won. That would probably make me happiest. After I personally have decided that I cannot win, then we felt like you worked that extremely well. So is that something that you? My last question is that something that you think about? And when you're on the board or with individuals in general, you think about what their secondary conditions are in these moments and how to make them as happy as possible while you're winning.
Absolutely. I mean, in the last game, I wouldn't even say that I was the only contender or something. McCallus had vetoed twice. We didn't know it was McCallus who was vetoing in secret. He wanted to try and see if he could sneak in a center at the end to try and overtake me after saying all of that of, hey, I want to help you win. That's why I took Trieste. It was very sad to eliminate Austria, but I wasn't sure who vetoed, and this solidified that McCallus couldn't take it. But in terms of the alliances, McCallus and Katie were very nice to me in the game. If I'm an asshole to them, they probably won't be very happy to help me. So I've asked them what they wanted. McCallus wanted second place for DBNI points. Katie wanted to stay on 3 and not lose anything unless absolutely necessary. Claire wanted second, but agreed that her position was one where she should be happy with third. So all the last moves were very weird, but I was really trying to make everyone get what they wanted out of that game. And I think that is partly why they kept helping me, so that they could at least achieve that result. And I do the same when I can't win. I've done it in games with you, Dan, where I've gone up to you like, hey, I can't win, but I'd like this. Can you help me with this? And then you can hopefully make everyone as happy as possible with the current situation.
Well, you do it better than anyone, Micah. And we said that in the broadcast. So well done. Bravo.
Well, thank you. You're all very nice. I look forward to seeing the broadcast. It's going to be really fun. I saw the beginning and I saw the interviews, and that was nice to see how everyone viewed the game. And I really do like this game.
We can tell you play a lot of it. Well, we love it. We love having you as a part of this community, Micah, but you're not just playing and winning, you're also hosting events in Europe, and we definitely appreciate that too. So we look forward to more of those as well.
Well, thank you. We're thinking of something, but not public yet, so stay tuned.
Watch this space. Thank you for joining us, Micah. We'll let you get back to resting after a full day of 2 top boards. You deserve the rest.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for broadcasting, and to all our lovely sidelines, of course.
Of course.
Congratulations.
Ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise, your future world champion, Micah Blum.
All right,
I don't think anyone would be surprised at this point.
Alrighty. This has been an excellent stream, people. We can ignore the first 10 minutes where it was a bit of a faux bar on my part. But it was an absolute pleasure. Dan, Johnny, Ben, Johnny, got something else to say? Or
I do have something else to
yes.
say. Well, one, I want to say that I feel for Casey. I just want that on the record. When they write the history book, I want it noted that I said that I feel for Casey, because I think Casey played a great game, and I don't think he deserved what he got. I also want, before we go, Dan has something to say, and I think it's important that he says it, because I think everybody needs to hear it.
Oh, you said the thing that I was going to say at the end.
You've been saying that you have something to say at the end.
All right. I've got something to say about the policy of throwing, right? Or the policy of, conceding, shall we say, to be generous. I play with many players over the years, and I know a lot of them who play teaching games. A lot. And they get frustrated with other players, and that frustration can occur in multiple different ways. And if anyone's watching this stream and they're up against players and they think they might be players who like to throw, concede, or what's the word? Have a teaching game, then please do find out in advance if you can. And that might even be your first question about someone that you don't know in a game. Do they get angry and throw? Oh yes. Like, we all know who these people are who are, circulating at large within the hobby. I think it worked against Michalis today. I think, the teaching game policy can be very strong, but I think maybe he went a little early, if I'm honest. And I think, I think it might be a habit of his. For all that Micah is an amazing player and a future world champion and dominant in Europe this year, so Michalis is also an absolutely spectacular player of diplomacy and also a future champion in every way. And they're all young people, which I absolutely loathe. This is my moment to say, I think, if at some point you've got to suddenly think about your habits, as we have all done, and gone, are these habits still helping me, or are they the thing that's holding me back? So, yeah, those two things. Number one, find out if the people at the table are throwy type people, and then make sure you treat them accordingly if you don't know them. And secondly, if you are one of those people, make sure you're still doing it for the right reasons and the reasons that you want to. That's all.
Excellent point. Thank you.
I don't have anything nearly that deep to say, but I just want to remind you that if you're watching this, you can be playing in this event. If you're not already, you can be playing in the Virtual Diplomacy League. We have every month. That will be starting in March, and then we'll go every month until December. There's the little scroll thing at the bottom going across, right? That has the schedule. Yeah, the server that hosts these virtual games is up there. If you can't figure it out, DM me on Discord. My name is just my name, or make a comment in the video. Always want to get new people in, and always want to keep the hobby happy and healthy and thriving here.
That's it. And again, a massive thank you to everyone that ran this event, Johnny, Sabi, Justin, and Pixie. Excellent job getting so many players in with so many rounds across the weekend as well. It would have been an exhausting task to keep that running, but it's really helping grow this hobby and make it accessible for those who may not be able to make it to face-to-face events. I think that is it. We can wrap this up under 4 hours, which I think is a very good achievement. An excellent game. Again, yeah, big shout out to everyone on the board. Sorry to Patrick and Julian, who were eliminated, but very good game from Claire. Again, Casey as well, Michalis, and obviously Micah and Katie doing well in a really bad position too. Having to fight the tough fight for most of it. And yeah, but Johnny, if you want to sign us off, we'll end it there.
I would be happy to sign us off by saying the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. I'll see you in July for Tournament Diplomacy in New York City. Diplorat Mischief, weekend of July 10th. Stay safe and stab well.